Nobody wants to believe that they're in a cult. Nobody wants to think that they could be in a cult. Everyone wants to believe that they would know instantly and they would be able to at least figure out if they were being deceived, or if they were being misled, or if they were in a cult. Um, they would get out of it right away. They wouldn't let anybody manipulate them. But sad to say, Christianity is a cult. Just because you are in the biggest cult or the most popular cult or the most populated cult doesn't mean it's not a cult. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into any of that, welcome to Ichabod. I am Be Good, the host of this here channel. And I'm so glad that you all are rocking with Ichabod today. If you're on Instagram, wait, I should say, let me bring Instagram in. I always have to go to Instagram to make sure it goes live. Okay. You should be going live now. And then I'll bring Facebook in. All right, let me make sure Facebook is in effect. Bear with. Come on into the chat in the meantime and greet one another in reason's name while I post this link for folks. Yes. It's going down. All right, so the link is posted. Let me pin it. And then we will get into it. There we go. Sorry, if you're on Instagram and you'd like to call in, scroll up to where it says call in and click the StreamYard link to call in. If you don't want to call in, but you'd like to just come join us, then click where it says join us on YouTube. You can watch on Instagram, that's fine. But if you can't comment on Instagram. If you want to comment and you want your comment to be seen by others and read, come over to YouTube. Shout out to all the folks here in the YouTube chat already. Let's see who we got. Might be a little bit of scrapping going on because Sha Goodwin beat Daryl Williams to the punch with the salutations. She was first. What's up, Sha? And David DeBow had a burning question, probably the best question we'll get all day. David DeBow said, "How come we never hear Be Good say John?" Well, it's not that I don't say John. It's just I've never been the type of person that was always kicking a whole bunch of slang. And I think it also depends on who I'm talking to. So, like, you don't have to be kicking a whole bunch of slang to kick it with me, and you're not going to hear that from me. But I do say John. You know, when the time is right, if the John fits, then the John will be uttered. There's a hat I saw somebody on Facebook. It's the word John, and it's got two eagle wings coming out of the word John. It's like, no, I would not wear that as a Philadelphian. I don't think any proud Philadelphian would wear a hat that says John with the eagle wings coming out. You let me know if you would. That seems so much of like a touristy thing, like people that are just excited to say the word John and then have it represented on them. Like, wearing a hat that says John is like eating cheesesteaks every night for dinner. Like, you don't have to do that. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, it's in our DNA. We don't have to put it on our bodies and heads and all that. So anyway, but there is something you can put on your body. You can represent the talking cloud up above my head, Yahweh. Yahweh is a better God than Yahweh. Why? Because Yahweh is based on reason. That's why we greet one another in the reason's name. So you can go cop you a T and represent Yahweh. Shout out to all the Patreon supporters. If your name is on the screen, your name is in Mikasa, or my heart, my corazon, and here in Mikasa. I did have a few folks come through and take pictures in the Ichabod chair in Mikasa. But I'm still waiting for them to send me the photos so I can like show you the little tour we did here. I was on my way going through the oh, there we are. Daryl Williams with the salutations. And Decipher says, "We in here." Indeed, Amias Salutations. And then we got More Life J Star. What's happening? Good to see you all here. Weirdo Rock, what's going on? And we already know what Weirdo Rock is saying. Gloopity glorpity friends. Guess whose turtle just insisted on exploring his kitty's suit to a his kitty's suite a bit ago. I have no idea what any of that means, and I'm not even going to venture to try to parse it out. Noon is in the house. What's happening, Noon? Noon says, I only say John when I talk to Philly people. That seems to make sense. Ambassador LPW, what's good? All right, so I don't think I'm going to do much today by way of prelim. Me, no, good to see you. What's happening? And the Better People Project is in the house. Yo. And Richard Tabor is here. Good to see you. All right, so like I said, if you're watching on Instagram, you want to come join us in the chat, go up to my top of my bio, click on join us on YouTube. You can come. A bunch of lovely people here in the chat, because I see sometimes on Facebook, people got a lot of comments that y'all be making, sometimes a little slick comments. Come over, join us here in the chat. You might end up in a nice dialogue with somebody. You might share some things that might make somebody want to think a little harder about what they believe and why. Or somebody here might share something that could cause you to say, hey, I need to find a better defense for that. Or maybe there is no defense for that. And so you can come and join us in the chat and meet some new folks. And we play nice here. Nobody's going to be coming at your neck. But I mean, maybe they may challenge you a little bit. I'm sure you might want to challenge them as well. So we can do all that. But I said Christianity is a cult. That's the prompt for today. And I know we're gonna have to define cult, and we're gonna have to try to distinguish or think about what might distinguish Christianity from some of the other cults. What's up, Chef B? Good to see you. Good to see you. But I do have a caller. Like I said, I'm not going to belabor anything today. We're going to get right into it. And let's bring in a caller. I don't think this is somebody I spoke to before. But your camera is not on. You don't have to turn it on, but we would like to see you. That would be fun. But if not, you can keep it as it is. I'll give you a second to make any adjustments you might want to make, and then I will bring you into the studio, or onto the stage, I should say. All right. So welcome to Ichabod, Jeremiah. What's going on, Jeremiah?
Hello, can you hear me?
I definitely can. Jeremiah, have we spoken before?
Yes.
Okay. Recently?
Remember that Gloria Sean? Like maybe last week. Last week.
Okay. I do remember somebody that had an accent that was pretty thick, and I had a hard time hearing some of their words. So if that happens again, I'm going to ask you maybe just to speak a little slower than normal so that we can make out what you're saying. And hopefully we'll be able to have a good conversation here. But remind the folks who are watching, Jeremiah, where are you at with the question of God? Are you theist? Are you atheist? Are you agnostic? Where are you at?
I'm a Christian.
Christian, and the Bible to you is the word of God, correct?
Is the inspired word of God, not word inspired.
Inspired word of God. And last question, is the Bible inerrant, meaning without error?
But if you look at the Bible in history, you know it wasn't compiled until the 3rd century, right?
But hold on, can I just get a answer to that question? Is the Bible without error?
What do you mean by error? Is it meant to guide people or what?
If I try to guide you to the White House and I end up taking you to New Orleans, did I misguide you?
But does it not does it not lead to another journey?
If I could, I would like to get maybe a yes or no out of you. If I say I'm going to take you to the White House and I end up taking you to New Orleans, first of all, I'm not sure, Jeremiah. Do you mind saying where you're calling from?
I'm calling from Ghana.
Ghana. Okay, so maybe I'm saying things that you're like White House, New Orleans. I don't. If I say I'm going to lead you, I'm going to guide you to the United States of America, and I take you to China, did I misguide you?
In a way, yes.
In a way, yes. So hold on. If I take you to China, when I said I was taking you, I was guiding you to the United States of America, is my guidance without error, or does my guidance contain error?
But it depends on, there must be a reason behind it, right?
There might be, but if I tell you I'm taking you to the United States of America, but I take you to China and I say, here we are, I misguided you. You said it might be misguiding. And so my question is my guidance without error, or does my guidance contain error? If I say, here we are, but we're in China, when I told you I was taking you to the United States of America.
Yes, but do I have the right to ask him why did he misguide me?
That's a great question, but we can at least say I did misguide you, right?
Yes, but I have every right to respond
I will
by
get to that.
asking why
Yes,
did.
yeah, I'll get to that in a second. I just want to make sure. So for when I ask you if the Bible contains error, what I'm saying is, if the Bible claims to be taking us to truth, Jesus said of the Father, "Thy word is truth." If the Bible claims to be taking us to truth, but it takes us to something that's not true, that would mean that the Bible contains errors, right?
But you do realize that the Bible is a collection of books meant to tell a story, right?
I understand that. But if the story claims to be taking us to the truth, but it takes us to things that are not true, I'm speaking hypothetically. I'm not even saying that the Bible actually does this. I'm saying if the Bible claims to be taking us to truth, but it takes us to something that's not true, we would have to say it contains error. If that happens, right?
But each books of the Bible has its own purpose, right?
That may be true. But if any of the books claim to be taking us to truth and it takes us to something that's not true, we would have to call that an error, correct?
But the problem is that you do realize that most of the books was compiled. And like me, like, I'm not like sola scriptura. I don't believe in like the supreme Bible.
I'm not asking
like,
you about sola scriptura. I'm asking you about inerrancy. Do you think the Bible contains any error or no?
Yes. But yes, I do believe. But you do realize that it was written by people who were inspired by God, right?
So let me just be clear. When you say yes, you're saying yes, you do recognize that the Bible contains error? Is that what you're saying?
It was written for people during their time. I won't say error, but it was meant to send a message to people during their time and as a guide into the future.
So what you're saying is that it was meant to give a message and be a guide. It doesn't matter whether or not it contains any errors, as long as it still gets you to where the guide was taking you. That's what you're saying, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to understand how you're approaching the Bible. It can contain errors, so that if I bring up something in the Bible that is not true, I just was trying to get an idea on what your response was going to be. And your response is going to be, that's fine if that verse or that idea is erroneous, because it still takes us to the right place. That's your point, right?
But you realize that we have Old Testament and New Testament, right?
Clearly.
Okay, so but the error you are going to bring out, is it from the Old Testament?
I'm not even trying to bring up any errors at this point. I'm just trying to understand how you deal with the idea that there could be errors in the text. Do you accept that or not? I'm just trying to understand what your
But
relationship to the Bible
now
is.
the problem is that I'm more of a realistic. The Bible was written by human beings, and human beings are prone to error, right?
Human beings are prone to error, but they're inspired by God. So if God inspires them, does God not safeguard them against error, or does God
But
inspire them but
okay,
then let them
okay,
do
okay,
erroneous things
okay.
afterwards?
Like for example now, but okay, do you believe that God inspired them to write maybe things that happened, maybe Moses or all those
No,
kind of things?
I'm an atheist. I don't believe that
Okay,
God
then,
inspired anyone.
but okay, well, I just see it as it's more of a guide. That is like,
Okay. And is God behind the guiding, or is it simply humans trying to guide other people to where they think they should go? Is God safeguarding the guiding so that people are being led directly to where God wants them to be led? Or could they be led somewhere incorrectly, wrong, because the Bible has errors?
all I can say is that the Bible was written by humans, and humans
Okay.
are prone to error. So,
Do you
and
think God has
most
any interest or responsibility in making sure that something that's called his word is not going to have errors? Or do you think God has no responsibility in that?
but you do realize that God gave us free will, right? And
I do, but doesn't God have free will too?
free will to guide, but you have the opportunity to narrate it your own way, right?
I understand that. God gives them liberty to write what he inspired them to write in their own voice, with their own experiences, maybe their own vocabulary. But my question is, does God safeguard that process against error? Or once he inspires them, does he allow them to do whatever they're going to do? And then whatever errors happen, God just kind of steps back like, that ain't my fault. That's on y'all.
Well, I just feel that it will only prove that God is just, because it won't. If the Bible was like true favoritism, it will look somehow that it's being manipulated. I just
Okay. So the prompt for today is Christianity is a cult. Let me just ask you real quick. Do you think that there are such things as cults in the world?
I believe that ideology is a cult.
You said
Ideology is a cult.
ideologic ideology
Yes,
is a
it's a
cult?
cult. Yes,
Any ideology is a cult? Any.
yes. Even atheism can also, since it's also an ideology, can also be phrased as a cult also.
Any ideology is a cult. So you're kind of just
Yes,
flattening out the whole playing field that anytime somebody has an ism, they're in a cult.
yes. Because it is cultism is meant to is towards a direction, and it must be moved towards that direction. That is why I
Can you
just feel.
name like just name a couple of cults, maybe one or two cults that you think are real cults? Name one for me if you don't mind.
Like racism can also be called a cult.
Racism is a cult. Does it matter who you're racist
Yes,
against, or you can just be any kind of racist
yes,
and you're in a
yes,
cult?
yes. Because you are trying to get a following to have your own, that to share your own ideology. As long as you are gathering following to share your own ideology, it can
I don't
also
know
be
if it's a
phrased as a
language
cult.
barrier or what, but that's not how we typically use the word cult. I'm going to put up a definition of cult. Okay. So a cult
Okay.
is so small, I can't even read it. A cult is a social group or movement characterized by
Mm.
shared extreme
I
devotion to a specific person, idea, or belief system. Would you agree with that?
that is why I'm just waving. So ideology can be branded as a cult,
I don't know if the
right?
ideology can be branded as a cult. A
Yes,
cult
it
is more
can
of
be.
a cult.
Yes,
Hold on. A cult is more of the social group that bands together
Yes.
around the
Okay,
ideology,
okay,
not the
okay,
ideology itself.
okay. Okay. Can you claim that the Black Lives Movement can be labeled as a cult-like movement?
The Black Lives Matter movement.
Yes, can be labeled as a cult-like movement.
But once you insert the word "like" into it, when you say cult-like, you could probably always
Yes.
find something that's true of a cult and something that's true of another group, and say, "Aha! See, it's cult-like because of that one thing."
Like,
But I wouldn't say
can't
cult-like
wait.
because. Hold on, go ahead.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
like, for example, it's like it's trying to get followers into sharing his own view of ideas, right?
Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, but you put idea also, right? Person idea or
So this is what Encyclopedia
screen.
Britannica says about a cult, right? So look at the screen. It's up there on the screen for you.
No, I can't read it. It's too small.
All right, so listen. Key
I can't-
characteristics. Wait. Key
Okay.
characteristics of a cult. Cults have
Mhm.
a charismatic leader. The group usually centers
Okay.
around an authoritarian leader who demands total loyalty and claims special insight or authority. Do you think that's true of the Black Lives Matter movement?
Yes.
Who's the charismatic leader?
I think I don't know, but I know she is headed by a woman, and she tends to. She has this. I know he's headed by a woman, but can you continue? I don't know her name, but
No. So
continue.
Black Lives Matter is a movement, and there is also an organization, an incorporated organization. Everybody who's part of the Black Lives Matter movement. Wait.
That promotes black.
Listen. Everybody who's a part of the Black Lives Matter movement is not a part of the Black Lives Matters organization. So the organization may have a leader or leaders, but most of the people who are in the movement at large are not in the organization, and they don't follow that leader.
But they can be called followers, right?
No, they can't.
They can't be called followers.
Nope.
Okay, let's say if they were organizing a protest, won't people follow them? Okay, if they were organizing a protest,
people might join them. People might join them, but they're not
trying to control. See now, do you see what you are doing? Can you see what you are doing?
I'm speaking to you, and I'm using specific words because words are containers of ideas.
Okay, so a cult can also be associated with an ideology.
Okay.
So, like, let's say Black Lives, you call it an organization. So that organization can symbolize a church.
I'm not calling it an organization. There is an incorporated 501c3 organization called Black Lives Matter.
Which could be the church, which symbolizes something like a church, right? Where the leaders gather together to discuss, right?
Maybe we should leave this because I'm not sure how fruitful this conversation is being. It's
not because I caught you. I just caught you.
Well, I see that, but I don't know if you can see it in the chat. I'm going to show you. We got red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag.
But I thought you wanted dialogue now.
I do want dialogue, but this has to have some kind of entertainment value. And we've been going around and around, just trying to get our understanding.
This is a dialogue. It's not about you controlling the narration. Everybody must be free.
I'm not trying to control anything. I'm trying to make sure that this is beneficial, not just for you and me, but everybody who's watching.
Okay, but you said you put a prompt, Christianity is a cult, and I want to counter that. Can't I counter it?
But according to you, anytime you have a group of people who are getting together that have an ideology, they're in a cult. And so you agree with the prompt, right?
Yes.
So then why are you calling?
So
the prompt says if you disagree, call in.
Yes, but you only put Christianity is a cult. You didn't put, right?
Why do you think I did that? You think I did that just to be like incendiary or inflammatory, like to? Why do you think I put that as the prompt for today?
Enlighten me.
I put that as the prompt for today because most Christians are not going to say what you said. They're not going to say, "Oh no, a cult is any group of people that gets together with an ideology." Most Christians are going to say,
Because
"No,
most of
we're not a cult. Those
be-
other groups are cults." And what I'm interested in doing
but
is showing
but
Christianity how it qualifies as a cult.
now the difference between me and you is that I'm much more inclusive. I am not selective and I'm not biased. I'm not selective
Is
and I'm not
Jesus
biased. I am
selective
much
and
more inclusive.
inclusive? Is Jesus selective or inclusive?
Now, is it Christianity you put, or you are talking about Jesus? Why you change the topic to Jesus?
Because isn't Jesus the one who Christianity is like centered around?
Yes, to follow his message, right? Not in his message, his core message.
So hold on. Is Christianity exclusive or is it selective?
It's exclusive.
I'm sorry, not exclusive. Is it inclusive? Because you said you're much more
Oh,
inclusive.
sorry,
You're
inclusive,
not
inclusive.
selective,
My bad.
right?
It's inclusive. Yes, Christianity is inclusive.
Christianity is inclusive, meaning it can include people who don't even agree with it. Would you think so?
Yes, it is much more tolerant to people who insult it than other religions, because you couldn't try it in
Being
an
tolerant
Islamic
to people who
country.
insult it is not the same as including people. You said it's
No,
inclusive, not
it's not a
just
matter.
tolerant.
Okay. Now, who do you enlighten me by the word inclusive?
You used it. You said you're much more
What you mean by
inclusive. You're not
no?
selective.
Enlighten me by the yes.
I
We are not.
would if I could, but the red flags have been nonstop. Jeremiah, I'm going to let you go. And hopefully you'll call back and maybe we'll get right to the meat and not dance around as much as we did this time. But I'm going to respect the red flags right now. But thanks for calling, man.
No problem.
Yep. Hey, sorry guys. I was trying to get somewhere. I was trying to help us go somewhere. And I don't know. Sometimes I think it's worth it to have those, even if we're beating around the bush, to have those kinds of conversations, because I know I've heard from some of you all that when you watch shows like this, you're actually learning how you're going to deal with people who are being obtuse, or people who are not answering questions directly. And so when you see somebody like myself, or maybe Matt Dillahunty, or maybe Deconstruction Zone, you're seeing different ways that people try to push their interlocutor to, hey, answer the question, or I'm going to hold your feet to the fire, or even if I give you some leeway to maybe maybe get a little wider in how you answer the question, here's how I'm going to bring you back to what we're talking about. So sometimes I'll let it go a little while just to maybe demonstrate how to deal with I don't want to say a combative witness, but somebody who's just not being conversational. So I think about that sometimes. But the line is open. Anybody who says, hey, I would like to call in. I don't think Christianity is a cult, and here's why. Can you tell us why? Here goes the link to call in, and let us know if you agree, like my last caller who's a Christian. But he says, no, Christianity is a cult. Everything's a cult. Anytime you have people getting together behind an ideology, that's a cult. That's not typically what we mean when we say cult. You saw what I had on the screen a minute ago, and I have other things that I'll share if I get more callers. But for you all who are in the chat, many of you are former Christians. Some of you are still Christian. What would you say to the idea that Christianity is a cult? Agree or disagree? And if you agree, maybe say one little line about why you think it's a cult. Or if you disagree, why would you say it's not a cult? I'd love to hear what you guys are going to say. And if you're not watching the live, you can put your answer in the comments. Is Christianity a cult? Why or why not? Daryl Williams says most definitely a cult. All right. Richard Tabor says, I suppose I would have to say each congregation is in and of itself. So not an umbrella, but going to your private conclave with the people that you worship with, that could be a cult. Interesting. Darrell Williams chimes in. Church membership in itself. Apish says, agree because all cults are based. Because all cults are based on Christianity. Is that? You know what? I think I know exactly what you mean, but say more. Say more. Because I think I get what you're saying. And here's what I think you're saying. We typically don't call. Do we call other religions cults if they weren't based on the Christian faith and maybe found some kind of way to distort it from what the Orthodox might say? I do think there's a sense in which we call things cults when they distort Orthodox Christianity and they haven't grown large enough to be a denomination of Christianity, so we call them cults. But I think we also use that term for other small religious gatherings that may not be offshoots of Christianity, but they just aren't mainstream enough to get the kind of the welcome mat rolled out to be part of the religious plurality of a society. So if they're still small, we might call them a cult. But I don't know. What do y'all think about that? Shah says definitely agree. Interesting. That's not the one I wanted to highlight. I'll get back to that one, I think. But Decipher says we generally say radical Islam. Is radical Islam a cult in a way that generic, if we could even say generic Islam, is not? Interesting. Richard Tabor says, oh yeah, pagan cults are a constant theme in Bronze and Iron Age, right? Am I wrong here? Yeah, I don't even know. Pagan cults. I do think it was the Christians who came along and began labeling other people as pagan even before we had the idea of cults. So it was the Christians who were calling other folks pagan. I think that's pretty much something we could say for sure. I'm skimming through some of the comments here. Better People Project says, I believe the form of Christianity that I was involved in was a cult. Now, if you could, how would you distinguish that form of Christianity from Christianity in general? If your form was a cult, but then Christianity in general might not be, what was the difference that made yours a cult? Because I remember when I was a Christian, there were people, my guy Enoch, who was part of the cross movement. When I first met Enoch, he was a part of a church that I think most Christians would have said, your church is a cult. And basically it was because some of the characteristics that we saw on the screen a minute ago, they claimed such a demand on his time, his talent, his service, his money, his allegiance, that it was cultish. But here's the thing. Think about it like this. If I think one of the reasons why Islam and Christianity get a pass from not being called a cult is because the charismatic leader that everybody pledges devotion to is not here in the flesh demanding that you bow down. And so since, the leaders are, they've gone on to the afterlife or whatever, it's easier to say, oh, there's nobody here lording it over my head. I might have a pastor and my pastor might be a little demanding, but I could always, if I really, really wanted to, I could always go to a different church. And therefore, I'm not locked down to a cult. But if Jesus was on the earth today, demanding that you hate mother and father if you're going to follow him and be his disciple, and saying, nah, my mother and my brothers, nah, they're not my real family. Anybody who does the will of my Father in heaven, that's my real family. I think if Jesus was on the earth today saying the things that he said, eat my flesh, drink my blood, or else you have no parts of me, I think it would be quite clear that, yeah, this is a cult. Like this is this is a cult. But since he's in heaven, we give him a pass, right? But I think it's a cult. I think it's clear that this is a cult. Let me see what else y'all said. Okay, so Apish rephrase. Let me rephrase. A lot of cults are based on Christian teaching, and I think it's naturally so, because that's what cults do. Like even the 5%ers. Some of you don't know about the 5%ers. The 5%ers is a offshoot of the Nation of Islam, which is an offshoot of Islam. But the 5%ers, they take the Bible, they take the Quran, and they kind of merge the two and don't really hold to either of the two. But there's a reason why cults do that. It takes a lot of time and energy to come up with a holy book. But if you've got one already, I think that's what the Book of Mormons did. Like, yo, they like, we've already got a holy book. You got the Bible. Let me just piggyback off of that. And that's what the Christians did, right? Judaism, you've already got a holy book. You got the ancient scrolls of the Hebrew Bible. I don't have to invent this thing from scratch. I've already got the beginning of the world. I've already got prophets. I've already got promises of predictions of the future. I can just piggyback off of that and start my religion with sort of like a leg up. But it's still a cult. It is exclusive. It is not inclusive, right? You have to believe like we believe. And if you don't, you're not part of us. It's a cult. But the line is open. So I am looking for a Christian who wants to maybe call in and maybe defend why you think Christianity is not a cult. Or do you kind of take that on the chin and say, no, we're a cult. We're just right. Does being right excuse the cultish nature of the religion? Like, even for the atheists and agnostics and skeptics in the chat, if the religion was right, would that make it no longer a cult? And now it's just, no, it's a worldview that people need to become convinced of. But it's like, what cult couldn't say that? What cult couldn't say, no, same thing about us. We're right. Y'all just need to become convinced of that. So, because I would imagine the Christian, if the Christian's not going to call, I'll have their side of the conversation. I would imagine the Christian could say, no, Brady, scientism is a cult. You all think that if somebody doesn't accept science, the scientific method, or, you know, what, vaccines, or I don't know, evolution, you all think if somebody doesn't accept that, they're wrong, and you're going to make fun of them, and you're not going to invite them to your little, you know, get-togethers. You guys are a cult too. And I think we would probably say, well, no, we believe that we have demonstrable claims. We're not making claims that we can't demonstrate and telling people get down or else, like you better believe this or else. We're saying this is demonstrable. And if you go against this, you're actually going against reality. You're going to hurt yourself. As we're seeing, like, I live in Pennsylvania. I just saw the news yesterday. 2 more people have now died from measles. And these are 2 people from my state of Pennsylvania. Like, we're not going around saying, oh, you better believe in these vaccines, or else the vaccine monster is going to come out the vaccine closet and get you. No, we're saying if you run afoul of these things, because the scientific method is, we've tested this, we've ran hypotheses, we've ran experiments, we can actually make predictions based on this. And if you run afoul of this, you're really just messing up your own health, your own future, yourself. And we might go as far as to say, and if you're going to deny these things, these scientific findings, then stay over there not because we're trying to be cultish and we don't want you in our group, but you're probably going to catch some disease that's curable and preventable, but you're not getting vaccinated. You're not, stay over there. It's not because we're trying to be cultish. We're trying to keep ourselves alive and well. I don't think that's the same as the Christian or the religious person who's like, no, we've got this exclusive truth and we can't demonstrate it to you, but you better believe it or else. I think that's different. But you let me know if y'all think I'm tripping. All right, I do have a caller. I don't think this is somebody we've spoken to before, but I've been wrong in the past. Caller, your camera is not on. If you'd like to turn your camera on, that would be dope, but you don't have to. I'll give you a second to make any kind of changes you might want to, and then I will bring you in. Also, just so you all know, if you want to call in, if you're on Instagram, scroll up to my bio and click where it says call in. That's the StreamYard link that'll bring you into the backstage. If you're like, I don't want to call in, but I do want to join y'all on YouTube, how do I do that? Scroll up and click on the link where it says join us on YouTube. You can come over to the chat. There's a bunch of people here just waiting to chat with you and, say what's up and, get to know you. Same thing on Facebook. I haven't checked Facebook since I posted the link. But if you want to call in and you're on Facebook, scroll up, click the link. I did see My Unique Monique pop in. Wanted to give her a shout out, but I lost the post where she said, what's up? But hey, what's happening? Good to see you. Speaking of My Unique Monique, she will be part of the group that we're going to be doing this Saturday night, if that's the 29th, where we're going to be responding to the 1v20, where the one new age, a black woman who's a new age practitioner is in a 1v20 with 20 black women Christians. And so this coming Saturday, the 29th, I believe, it's going to be me and a team of black women skeptics, former Christians, reacting to that video. So that'll be Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Looking forward to that. All right. And without faith, if you would like to be a part of that discussion, I would love to have you be a part of that discussion. So please email me if you want to be a part of that. All right. With no further ado, please welcome Dalton to Ichabod. What's up, Dalton?
Hello, you can hear me?
How are you? Yes.
Hi, I'm
yes,
doing
yes.
well. I just kind of had a few little questions, or I was curious
All right.
about your
Before
thoughts.
we dive into that, I'm just curious. Have we spoken before, Dalton?
No, never. I've tuned in a couple times, but I've never called in.
Okay. And if you can let us know just where you're calling from ideologically, are you a theist, are you atheist, or are you agnostic?
I would say I'm agnostic coming from theist, like used to be pretty theistic, Like was
And when you were theistic, were you a theist of any particular religion?
right, like non-denomination Christian,
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And last question, I promise. How long since you left Christianity and became agnostic?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say because I was raised in it. So,
Mhm.
and then it was like when I graduated, I sort of drifted, and then I came back, and so I'm back in that mix. So it's like you don't often actually have to. So, because my kind of why I wanted to talk to you, the question
Mhm.
about is it a cult is because at least the way that I'm seeing it for Black people, um, I even heard people say that the church was the first place where we had any kind of governing power in America and for lots of the world. So it's
Yeah.
just like, how do we square the situation where, because I'm willing to bet a lot of people don't believe this stuff, or even they don't even practice actually a lot of the, what that book actually says. If you really
Mhm.
get into it, to be honest,
It
most people.
depends on what group you find yourself in, and this may go to the point that you're making, because I
Sure.
was a part of the Christian groups who they did practice,
They took it
and once
super
again,
serious.
they took it super serious. But of course, like every group, you're going to pick and choose what parts you
Right.
practice and what parts you say, oh, that was for the past, or that was cultural, or that was
Right.
this. So
I
yeah,
mean,
I hear you on that.
my take is more, you can't help but have a modern lens on it. You know what I mean? Like, they're not gonna be, it was written by people from a very long time ago who who were practicing a completely different religion, essentially, even if you want to square it and say that we're worshiping the same God, maybe. I don't think it's even fair to say that anybody in
Mm,
America is practicing what they were practicing back then, or at least not the majority of them. But so my concern though is, or my question about what your thoughts would be is, and I'll make it brief because I know you probably want to talk to
mhm.
get more to like a
No, it's all good.
debate. But so what do we do with? Because
Hmm.
I've seen a lot of people, even Gen Z, like in my generation, where they seem to be very in a hurry to get to become, I don't want to say become religious, but they felt like, because I
Hmm.
feel like millennials really got a little atheistic with it. And then it felt like, people, obviously, I'm not blaming this on the atheism. It actually was capitalism, but things got really
Hmm.
bad. And now people, they want to return back to the church because that was the last time they felt like,
Yeah, I
you,
get that.
you know? So how do we,
And
but
especially
so
in
what's the answer?
in the age where we're living in, where people don't have nuclear families the way that they
Right.
had,
Community, it's a
decades ago, and now
mess.
all that. Um,
It's a
you
mess. So
know,
I would just say I don't even know if so many people even believe it or
mm,
they know that factually it's not true. But there's something that it does for them emotionally that I don't know if we have outside of it that could be that kind of principle, the structure for them. You know what I mean?
well,
Or at
yeah,
least what would be your thoughts on that?
well, my thought is there are ways to utilize the church, and this is what
Sure.
Black Liberation Theology did. You
Sure.
use the setup. You use the fact that you're going to be meeting every week. You've got
Right.
leadership. You got, people who could be your foot soldiers. You can give them marching orders. You use the
Right.
system for what it's good for. And I always say, I think the fact that Christianity is useful doesn't mean it's truthful.
Right.
So, but there are ways to gather, there are ways to rally people. Because somebody could say gangs do the same thing. There are people who go to gangs
Sure.
because I need protection in my neighborhood. I have family. I go to my
Sure.
gang and they're willing to die for me. They're willing to, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't have to adopt the negative aspects of it just because it has some positive things. And if it's the case where no, you got to adopt the negative too, then that to me, that's what makes it cultish. Um,
Right. Right.
can we get together and not have a leader that we're devoted to more than
Right.
our families, more than ourselves, more than our finances? Like, can we still have some autonomy? Can we still think individual thoughts? Or if I think independently, am I now risking the group's well-being?
Right.
Once you start doing that, then I think you've kind of crossed that line into cult territory.
It's definitely kind of more cultish than at that point, I guess for sure.
Yeah. But
Um,
what are your thoughts? Like, are you thinking like, even if it is a cult, like we probably still
y-
need it?
yeah, so I'm kind of in this really weird place where, because to me, what made me really step away is because I really like ethics and I find ethics really interesting. And I think
Mhm.
ethics, it's like a kind of math. Like, people say there aren't objective morals. I believe that, sure. But, ethics, there is kind of math to it. Like, we can look at
Mm.
stuff and figure out if it's wrong or if it's what we prefer in our society. Um,
Mhm.
and so when we talk about Christianity being able to divorce the bad stuff, um, I feel like a lot of like supremacy is kind of like what you were describing. It's kind of inherent to that belief system in some ways. I mean, if you're reading the text and you're taking, I mean, it's a bit supremacist, dick, and I don't know if it could be separated from that.
Yeah, to me, the only way to do it is you'd have to water it down so much.
Right.
Like
No.
you'd have to water it down so much to the point where it would lose its power. Like the power of Christianity is you believe there's a God behind it.
Right.
You believe there's an afterlife. There's going to be
Right.
judgment. The wrongs of this world are going to be fixed in the next life. If you
Yeah.
water it down to the point where and you tell people none of that stuff is true, but we're still going to use the book because it's got good examples. We can make metaphors out of it. We all get the references. So when I say I'm going up to the mountaintop, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
you can use it that way, but everybody's got to be on the same page that we don't mean any of it. We're just using
Yeah.
it because it's useful, not truthful.
I read a Jewish book before, and it was so awesome because right at the beginning of the book, they're like, we're talking about the tree of life, but they've said it like 1,000 times. I'll never forget. This is a metaphor. This is a metaphor. Guys, this is not real. It's blasphemous to say that this is literally real. We don't know
Mhm.
actually what's going on. So we're using this as, language that we're familiar with to help us to kind of communicate with one another. So I think it could be useful in that way. But, ultimately, if you're saying, we worship endlessly this God and it's good. And it's like you refer to the book, and the book says, you know, gay people are an abomination, kill them.
Mm.
Really can't do so much with that. You really can't do too much with that at all.
So here's my thing. I'm like, even if let's just say we need cults, because somebody could come to me. I talked about this at the beginning of the program.
Sure.
In Philly, we say John. We're Eagles fans. Somebody
Mm,
could say being a fan of a sports team is cultish. If you walk through here on a Sunday when the Eagles are playing and you got a Redskins, or not Redskins, a Washington Commanders jersey on, or a Dallas Cowboys jersey on, you might get hurt. Is that
mm,
cultish? And somebody, this is what the white Christian nationalists are doing in America right now. Jake Lang just, he's going to these mosques and
right.
doing these marches for Jesus,
Right.
because what they're realizing is, you know what? Islam has the strength of a cult. Like
Right.
when you get a bunch of people who believe the
They
same way,
genuinely believe. Yeah.
like the white Christian nationalists are saying, well, we need something just as strong to weld us together. Let's use our ethnicity. Let's use the Christian religion,
Right.
because there's something to having a team with a jersey and a logo and a mascot that tells us here's what we're rallying behind. So here's what I was going
What?
to say.
Mhm.
Even if it's the case that maybe as a species, maybe we actually do need cults.
Right.
If that's the case, then maybe we need to invent a new
Right.
and
Better
true
ones.
cult. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
What are your
No.
thoughts?
Well, I mean, we say cult, but it's culture. That's so important to people. It's their culture. I talk to a lot of people who are both conservatives and liberals, and conservatives, it's essentially the same thing. They just have this childish fear about their culture that well, we're human, so they know they're going to die, and their culture is supposed to live past you. And so when you see
Mm,
things changing, you have this fear
yeah.
about, oh my God, I'm impermanent, and my culture itself
Mm,
isn't even this thing. It was just a blip.
yeah. Yeah.
And so that can
Mm,
be maybe offensive to a lot of people, like and I do research about the headspaces of the people who really believed these kind of old apocalyptic religions, and a lot of
mhm.
them did really think the world was ending, and it needed to happen kind of because they had underwent so much injustice. So I think there's some
Yeah.
of that going on
Yeah.
too, where
Yeah.
people, they feel like there needs to be justice somewhere because they experience a lot of injustice. But is it really justice to say I'm on the women winning team just with the most powerful guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
actually?
Yep. Yep.
No,
So
I
I
think.
love the Foundation series based on the books, but what they do is they envision a future society
Mhm.
where religious ideas have sort of been kind of like that's a thing of the past, but then you still got
Right,
the people who still believe the religion, but it's almost
right.
like science has taken the place of religion. And then there's
Oh,
sort of like
sure.
this war in society about, okay, what are we going to rally behind now? Um,
Mm.
I don't know. I think that's something that we're going to have
Oh,
to
interesting.
wrestle with,
Yeah,
especially in the
definitely.
post-Trump era, if we can get past Trump.
Well, yeah. Well, I think another thing with the whole Trump thing is because those people are really the ones carrying the Christian flag. I'm sorry, but um,
Mm,
you don't. You're
mm.
not saying that. Of course, there are good Christians, quote unquote, but that's the people who are representing that faith. Um, so
Mm.
that's just what that looks like.
So I just saw Apologia just did a video today where he's
Mm.
talking. He's critiquing or reacting to these Christians who are doing this podcast, and the Christians are saying to each other, the real end time battle for Christians is not going to be between
It's
Christianity and atheism. It's going to be between Christians and they say like some woke version of Christianity. So there's an
so
in-house
interesting.
debate and war going on between Christians right now.
And the
And
woke thing.
we're sort of just like, yeah, we're kind of the skeptics and the former believers. We're knocking on the door looking at all of them, like y'all are all in a cult. What are you
Right.
talking about?
You guys are
So
totally sideways. And if that
yeah.
guy's wrong, you don't want to be right. Like none of y'all want to be right now. Um,
Mm.
Forget just even the math and science of it. Um, but yeah, that was just I was wondering about. That's kind of what I
Yeah,
think about
appreciate you, Dalton. Thanks
with
for
that kind of
calling in,
stuff.
man. I
Thank
appreciate
you
the
for
call, and
talking to me.
folks in the chat are loving you too. So call back when you get a
Oh, for
chance.
sure. Yeah, you
All right,
have a
much love
good
to you.
one. Yep, you
All
as
right,
well.
peace. All right, if you have a comment or question that you want responded to, super chat it. It could be $1. Super chat it. That way it'll stand out. Otherwise, from where I'm sitting at, it's going to be very difficult for me to see your comment. All right, so I'm going back to the call log. We do have Will, and Will's letting us see him, so that's a treat. We don't get a chance to see most of our guests a lot of time. I'm not sure if this is someone I spoke to before, but please welcome to Ichabod. Will, what's going on?
Hey, how am I sound? Hey, how am I sounding?
Sound great. Sound great. Will,
Okay.
have we spoken
I
before?
don't know if seeing me is as much, not that I'm aware of. I don't know if
Okay,
seeing me
that's
is
what's
much
up.
of a treat or not, but
Well, we can barely see you, but at least we know that you're a human and not an AI right now.
yeah, that's a
question
good
for
point.
you. Question for you: are you a theist, or are you atheist, or are you agnostic? Where are you at with the God question?
Well, that's actually kind of segues into it because I was about to say my bias is coming from somebody who's not religious, so an atheist, if
Okay.
we want to use that term
Okay.
technically. But I still feel like calling
So-
Christianity. I still feel like calling
go ahead.
Christianity a full blown cult is a little too much. Like I agree it's destructive, but a full blown cult, I think that's a little too much. And maybe we can
All
get
right, so
into
let's
what
look at
we
what
mean by that.
let's look at what others have said. So this is
Hold up.
the synopsis is from Very Well Mind, and then Encyclopedia Britannica is going to give you the characteristics.
Sorry, my
So-
headphones came off while you were talking. Sorry about that.
Okay, so the blurb up top is from Very Well Mind website, and then the characteristics is from Encyclopedia Britannica. So do you agree
Understanding it now.
with this definition of a cult? It says a cult is a social group or movement characterized by a shared extreme devotion to a specific person, idea, or belief system. Would you agree with that definition of a cult?
Do I believe that applies to Christianity, or do I agree with that?
Well,
being
no.
a cult?
Just do you agree with the definition of a cult that they
agree
gave?
that's a cult. Yes, I agree that could be a
Okay.
cult. Yes.
So, in what ways does that not apply to Christianity?
The word extreme.
Are any of the ideas of Christianity extreme?
The ideas themselves, yes, but do you think the devotion to the ideas has to be extreme?
I would say so. Jesus said, "Take up your cross and follow me." You have to be willing to die to be his disciple. Not only dying to yourself, telling yourself no on a daily basis, taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. And loving mother or father more than Jesus disqualifies you from following him. That seems extreme to me. What do you think?
And how many Christians do you think obey that, particularly the first part? Not very many.
So my sister might still be in the chat.
Love Jesus
She's-
more than the world. Oh,
So, my sister might be in the chat still. Shav, you're still here. Say what's up. But my sister will tell you, back when I was a Christian, I literally told her something was going on, and I said to her, basically, like, it's okay if I lose you, because I'm going to, like, the people who believe in Jesus, they're my true family. Here she is.
I'm looking at the chat now.
She says,
I have you.
killing your only begotten son is extreme. But I have two sisters. This is the one who I told her that Christians are my true brothers and sisters. She's just my blood sister. I'm going to be in heaven eternally with the body of Christ. Her, not so sure what's going to happen to her. So I took it very literally. I was extreme with mine.
And
She
I would
says,
say-
yeah, it was a sad moment.
And I would say you probably took it more serious than the average Christian does too.
I don't know, folks in the chat. Y'all let us know. Did you count when you were a Christian? Did you count your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ as more and truer family than your blood relatives? Let us know in the chat. Did you take it that extreme?
I mean, a sample size of one being myself, I didn't take them more serious than that. I don't know. That's just one, but
now, had you told other Christians that you didn't take it that serious, do you think that they would have pat you on your back or said you need to grow a little bit?
Fair enough. They definitely wouldn't have patted me on my back.
Mm-hmm.
As to whether they would have told me I needed to grow a little bit, maybe. I guess it would depend on how we got on the subject.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we got a few answers coming in. Let's see if the chat took it that serious. All right.
Yes, what's the point if not all in? If my family were Christian, no. If not, yes, I did. Sorry, I'm reading out loud if that's bothering you.
No, so I'm going to put them on the screen. We got, yes, I did. Carl says, nah.
I didn't,
MJ
but
Davis
had a
says,
strong,
I didn't.
supportive family.
Without Faith says, yes. What's the point of not all in?
It seems pretty...
LPW says, if my family were Christian, no. If not, yes, I did, unfortunately. So yeah, we got a mixture here, but let's see.
I was about to say it's pretty mixed, half and half.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like your chat too on top of it, which I'm assuming is a pretty anti-religious well, I don't even know what I was about to say that probably proves my point, but never mind. That actually goes against
most of the people who are in this chat, when they were in, they were in.
Yeah. And I do feel like that tends to be the case with most apostates. Because, like, I think
that's an interesting point, right? Most people,
I think you take it seriously, so therefore you want to research it, and then that's what researching it leads you to drop out.
Yeah,
I think that's.
So, but hold on, let's see what else we got. So we got one characteristic is, well, no, they're not even the characteristics. Extreme devotion to a specific person, idea or belief system. I would think Christianity could qualify as a cult just on that alone, but then let's go down to the characteristics. Charismatic leader.
Sorry, before we get into it, how like, do you think cult could be on a scale? Like, maybe it could be a lit, because like I can see cultish has cultist qualifications, so maybe it'd be like a little 1 or 2 on a scale of 1 to 10. Like, what level on that? Do you think that
to answer that, let's look at these characteristics.
Okay.
To answer that, let's look at these characteristics.
We'll see if
the first characteristic is charismatic leader. The group usually centers around an authoritarian leader who demands total loyalty and claims special insight or authority. Now, most pastors, I don't even know if I could say most. Some pastors add themselves to the authoritarian leader that Jesus already is. But even without the pastors, I think Jesus is the authoritarian leader of Christianity. Would you agree or no?
He's definitely Christianity, so Jesus Christ is named after him.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, you could also make an argument that not John the Baptist, not John, Paul Saul had more influence on Christianity than Jesus. So, but yeah, I will say in terms of like devotion, people are consciously devoted to Jesus.
Mm-hmm. How about the next one? Control and isolation. Cults often use manipulative tactics to isolate members from families, friends, and mainstream society. Does Christianity do that?
That's probably the biggest one that I say no. Like, Christianity is very involved in society, for better or worse. Now, granted, they try to change society, so that's probably.
I was about to say.
So, that's why I said for better or worse.
And think about verses like friendship with the world is enmity with God. So you have this idea that I can't be friends with the world because if I'm too friendly with the world, now God is my enemy. So I might I might touch the world to maybe try to heal it, but I'm still going to stiff arm it when it comes to I'm not going out to hang out with my friends after work, my coworkers after work, because I don't want them to taint me, or I don't want to be tainted by their sinful jokes, or they probably want to go to a bar, or I danced at my cousin's wedding. I have a cousin who's a lesbian, got married, and I danced with my sisters at my cousin's wedding. This was like maybe 3 years ago. It was the first time I was out of the religion at that point. But that was the first time I danced with my sisters since we were kids. Because for most of my adult life, there were certain things that I just could not do because I did not want to be seen as being friends with the world. So I think in that sense, the religion isolated me from my family, from society. But maybe that was just the way I practiced it. How about this one? Exclusive truth. I think we have to admit that that's Christianity all day, right? Exclusive truth. They promote an us versus them mentality, claiming to be the sole source of truth while discouraging or punishing questions and criticism. Will, are you frozen? Are you still there? I hear you. Can you hear me?
I caught part of it. On us versus them mentality, and then you start cutting out.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. What time is it? Let me do the thing with my mic right now, just in case it's.
No, I think it is my signal, because it was also visual too.
Okay, but you can see me and hear me now.
Shut
Will?
down.
Can you see me and hear me now?
Down the YouTube feed. I didn't mute it, but now, yes, I just shut down the YouTube feed too. Okay. I figured that might also help my signal. All right, but so yes, I definitely agree with the us versus them mentality.
Right. So us versus them mentality, 100%. Claiming to be the sole source of truth while discouraging or punishing questions and criticism. I think all of that will probably be.
Yes, 100%. I'll agree with that one. Yeah, no argument for me on that.
And then the last one,
10 out of 10 on that one.
Last one, exploitation. The last one is exploitation. Many modern groups labeled as cults take advantage of members financially, emotionally, or physically.
Definitely to a degree. I mean, definitely kicking up 10% to a tad counts.
Got you.
And if we're talking about Christianity as a whole, yes. Now, if we're talking about other, if we're talking about like other specific denominations, some more than others, like the faith healers and the charismatic ones, they definitely rate a 10 out of 10.
So maybe your idea of a sliding scale,
in general, you have the tab, which I would say puts it somewhat on the list.
Yeah, maybe your idea of a sliding scale is maybe not all of them are at a 10 with all of these, but they're all on the scale with each of them. Like you might find a church that's like, I'm at a 2 on all of them, but it's still on the scale. Is it glitching? Because I feel like you're not responding in a timely way. It's probably glitching on your end.
Damn it.
Hey, well, I'm gonna let you go because it's been glitching the entire time.
Yeah,
I'm gonna let you go, Will, because the glitches is throwing off.
That was like right the part that I wanted to. That was right the part I wanted to hear too. You can just go ahead and say the sliding scale, and I'll catch it on the feed. Sorry about.
All good. Yeah. Hey, thank you for calling. Appreciate you, Will. The delay was so bad, it just wasn't really a good back and forth. But yeah, the sliding scale, I think even if you wanted to say, oh, number 2, my church don't do that one as much as some other churches, or number 4, my church don't do that as much as some other churches, or number 3, yeah, we do that a lot. So I think all Christian churches are on this. I'll put it up on the screen again. I think all Christian churches are here. They're on here. but maybe your church might just have a lower number on the scale than somebody else's church, but you're still on here. And if anybody wants to call in and disagree, please do. I'll put the link in the chat again. If you're a Christian and you want to help us understand how Christianity is not a cult, please let us know. Most of us who are in the chat are former Christians, and it's almost like maybe I'm speaking to some of you all's future. Maybe I'm speaking to some of you all's present because you're going through this right now. But until you actually deconvert, you don't even have the wherewithal to see how cultish it actually is. Once you come out and you look back, you're like, damn, yo, they had me. They got me. Oh my God. You have to look, you have to get out and look back to see it. And maybe you could still be in it if your doubts are beginning to grow. Maybe your doubts, like sometimes I get into this thing where I talk about my deconstruction and my deconversion process. There was a whole period, like a 2-year period, where I went to church every Sunday while I was all but out of the faith in my heart and mind. But I was hanging on by a thread. I was going to church every Sunday. But that was the best thing that could have happened for me. Like if I didn't go to church the entire time when I was deconstructing, I might have had a soft spot in my heart like, nah, Brady, maybe you misremembering. Go back and experience it again. But I was going to church every single Sunday while I was deconstructing and deconverting. And so I had the benefit of sitting in it and looking around and realizing how powerless the entire experience was. The songs we were singing, the having to close our eyes so that we don't get distracted by the natural world because we're singing about supernatural realities that we can't see, we can't experience. So we have to close our eyes. You think you're being spiritual when you do that. Close your eyes and focus. No, you know why they tell you to close your eyes? So that you don't see that nothing's happening. If you close your eyes, you can more easily suspend your disbelief and pretend something spiritual is happening. The Spirit of the Lord is in this place. I feel him in this place. And you close your eyes so that you don't have to contend with the fact that you're saying you feel him in this place, but you don't see him in this place. And when you felt the vibration, that was just the bass guitar player who just hit that riff, and something in you was like, he's in here. No, that was Greg over there on the bass guitar making you feel a little special. So you close your eyes so that you can suspend your disbelief. But I was going to church every single Sunday, and I just got a front row seat to the show. I looked around and I looked at the words on the screen that we were singing, and I'm looking around, and I'm just like, I'm to be dead ass real. There were times when I was sitting in church during the sermon, wanting to see if the God of the Bible would do anything. And I'm like pulling up porn sites while I'm in church, just like scrolling and like I'm not even like enjoying it. It's not like I'm doing like, oh, I want to watch this later. I'm just doing it to see, does the Spirit of God strike me down? Does he clue somebody else across the aisle in am I going to get a random text from somebody in church like, hey, Brady, God knows what you're doing? I just wanted to see, was anything going to happen? I was in the church for 2 years as an unbeliever, just looking around like, this is some bullshit. Nobody else sees this? Okay. So really, it's just a state of mind, because I could put myself back in the state of mind where I'm believing, and I would be just as content as everybody else around me. But they've got a different state of mind. It's not a spiritual reality. It's a mental state. Why am I saying that? I don't even know. Oh, for those who are watching, I just want y'all to know, When I do episodes like this, I really am just sort of laying it out there for those who are watching, because maybe you begin to get the sense that, damn, this is a cult. Maybe you voiced an independent thought and your Christian community made you feel like an outsider for having an independent thought. And you found yourself thinking, damn, I can't think for myself. Like, I got to agree with y'all on that. It gets worse when you factor in, I don't even know who wrote this. And you telling me I got to agree with First John? I don't even know who that is. Like, we don't even know who wrote this stuff. But if I don't agree with it, I'm the black sheep now. I'm an outside. Maybe you've sensed the cultish nature of it already. But I'm just saying all this to say, you get on the outside of it and you see it in high relief. You see all the edges of the cult. And you're like, how did I go 20 years, 30 years, right? Without faith, she's in the chat. Without faith, it's 50 years. How did I go that long and not see it? But once you see it, so Joe Schmidt, the atheist / agnostic philosopher, just converted to Catholicism, left agnosticism and atheism alone. Now he's a Catholic. But he was a Catholic back when he was younger. He reconverted to Catholicism. But many people who are looking at his reconversion are like, we gave you a lot of credit because he wrote a lot of great skeptical things. We gave him a lot of credit. I didn't know who he was until he had a back and forth with Matt Dillahunty earlier this year. But people are like, yo, we gave you a lot of credit for being a skeptic. But now listening to the stuff you're saying, you realize you were nowhere near as skeptical as you let on, because he's talking about all these things that were sort of circling in his heart and mind the last several years when we all thought he was being skeptical. No, but you were entertaining this and you were thinking about that and you were giving credence to this, and that won you over. You were never properly skeptical. And it's not a no true Scotsman. Oh, you were never really an atheist. No, you're showing us that you were never truly skeptical. But those of us who were once really Christian, devoted to, following, disciples of, worshiping Jesus, who are all in, once we get out, we look back and we realize that there's no way I'm going back to that. That's a cult. And I'm trying to not do a no true Scotsman fallacy, but I really do believe if you claim to have left it and grew in your critical thinking skills and you became skeptical and you got to being agnostic or atheist or whatever, and you go back to it, to me, the only thing that could make somebody go back is a personal experience that you cannot doubt. But if you go back because of other people's experience, like testimonies of miracles or some kind of argument, like I can see somebody going back to entertaining theism. I can't see you going back to Christianity. You were not properly skeptical if you go back to Christianity. That's just me. That's where I'm at. If you disagree, you can holler at me, but I see some folks in the chat saying, I don't even know what number that is. Is that 1,000,000%? How many zeros we got there? But yeah. Yeah. So would this person in the chat, would you please call in? Because you left so many messages saying you got delivered from Jesus by demons and all these things. And you had even other Christians were saying like, yo, please stop commenting because you're not really representing well in the comments. But would you like to call in and tell us about your experiences? You've got these firsthand experiences of how Jesus delivered you, because you might win some of us over. I'm going to put the link in the chat again. I think, I'm going to be honest with you, I think you've been deceived by the religion, deceived by Christian community, and I think they gave you the tools to further go on to deceive yourself. But if you would like to call in and help us understand what your experience was, because maybe you'll change someone's mind. I just put the link in the chat. Call in. Or any other Christian who disagrees when I say Christianity is a cult. This is your chance to call in. If you're on Instagram, Instagram is not here. It cut out. Damn. It keeps doing that. But at least it was here for an hour before it cut out. While the next caller gets their courage up to call in, give me a second to plug Instagram back in. Sorry. How do I do that? Gotta go here. The link is there for you guys. If you're on Facebook, it's the top comment. If you're here on YouTube, I just put it in the chat again, but it is also the top comment here. You can just scroll all the way up. I'm just getting this ready to bring Instagram back in. Give me a second. All right. And here we go. So is that it? Is Ished 28? Are you not going to call in? If you don't want to call in, that's fine. I'm sure folks in the chat would love to talk to you about your experience and your views, but we can have a great conversation if you'd like to call in. Let me make sure Instagram is, I got to go live. There we go. All right, Instagram, sorry you guys cut out, but it happens like that sometimes. After an hour, sometimes it just drops you, but you're back in now. And if you're on Instagram and you want to call in, scroll up top of my bio where it says call in, click the StreamYard link, and that'll bring you right to the studio and we can chop it up. I think Christianity is a cult. I think it qualifies. I think those who are in it don't recognize it as a cult because it's such a big cult. It's like, well, if everybody's in it, it can't be a cult. It's a huge cult. Just because it's the most popular or the most populated does not mean it's not a cult. It has all of the hallmarks of a cult. And I know you would like to think I couldn't be in a cult. Nobody could fool me. Sorry to have to say it. Friend, you are in a cult. You cannot demonstrate the reality of the things you believe, and you are warping reality to make it fit what you believe is the case. You believe these things are true, you have an experience, and so you explain the experience to yourself in ways that the religion gave you the vocabulary for. But you cannot demonstrate the reality of what you believe. Yet you have the nerve to tell other people that if they don't believe like you, if they're not in your exclusive group, then they're going to suffer for it, and God's going to make them suffer for it. That is a cult. Friend, that's a cult. If you could demonstrate the reality of your claims, it would not be a cult. You'd just be an advocate for reality. And I know that's what you think you are, but if you can't demonstrate it to be reality, it's a cult. And you've got to reckon with that. How do you feel about the fact that you cannot demonstrate the reality of the things you believe? Now, you might say, I could demonstrate that if you live according to the Proverbs or according to this principle, your life will go better. But you can get any book of maxims or axioms or sayings, wise sayings, and live according to it and watch your life improve in some way. That's no indication to the idea that what you believe is actually some exclusive truth. You might just have some good humanitarian, humanistic principles that happen to pan out and people can benefit by doing them. Study the ant, you sluggard, the Bible says. You can go study the ants and look how tirelessly they work and how they work as a unit and say, if we just did what the ants did, we would have a better society. Does that mean the Bible is true? Or does that mean that somebody who was perceptive observed something, wrote about it, and attributed it to God when it really was just a keen observation? That's what comedians do. Comedians make keen observations. And when they say, you're like, damn, how come I never noticed that? That doesn't mean that they're inspired by God to write that joke. Sometimes it's jokes that other comics say, damn, I wish I would have thought about that. I wish I would have thought of that. None of that means it's inspired by God. All right, I do have a caller. So let me bring in caller. You can turn your camera on if you'd like. We'd love to see you. You don't have to. I'll give you a minute to figure out if you'd like to do that. If you don't, that's fine. I'll bring you in as is. All right, please welcome to Ichabod. Eddie, what's going on?
How are you?
I'm doing great. Eddie, we've never spoken before, have we?
No, we have not, brother.
Okay, I love new callers. I love old callers too, but I love new callers. Eddie, can you let us know where you're calling from? Not geographically, but ideologically. When it comes to God, are you a theist? Are you atheist? Or are you agnostic? Where you at?
I am a Christian, brother.
You're a Christian, and this might be the last question I ask you. Is the Bible the word of God to you? If it is it? Say again?
Get rid of me. If you're going to talk to me like that, brother, you should have a conversation, man.
I'm not sure what my question to you is, if the Bible is the word of God to you, is it inerrant or infallible? That's the question I'm asking you.
Yeah, the word of God is infallible.
The word of God is infallible. Okay. So my prompt for today is Christianity is a cult. Disagree? Call in. You called in, so I'm taking it you disagree.
Sure. I want to ask you, in what sense? Because if you say Christianity is a false in a sense that there are three persons.
Hold on, Eddie, do me a favor. You might be very used to hearing American accents, so maybe you don't have a hard time hearing me, but I'm having a difficult time making out your words. So if you can, just speak a little slowly. That way I can kind of get into the accent and figure out what you're saying.
Okay, brother. Christianity, to me, if you say in Christianity religion, then I say it is false. But if you say Christian, then I say it is true, man.
Well, I'm not saying, the claim is not that Christianity is a religion. The claim is that Christianity is a cult.
Then it is a cult, brother. Because Jesus Christ didn't start. It is a cult because he didn't start Christianity, Jesus Christ.
So are you saying Christianity is a cult, but Jesus didn't start Christianity, and yes, therefore, so you are a Christian, but you're not part of Christianity? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
What do you call a bunch of Christians? What is their belief? What would you call that?
Yeah, they call themselves Christianity.
Okay. And Christianity in your eyes is what a bunch of Christians make up. They make up Christianity, right?
I wouldn't say that, brother.
What would you say?
Because the apostles were not in the Christianity religion.
They created it. Would you agree with that?
They did not. Christianity was started by men.
Which man?
After decades, the apostles.
Which man?
I believe in the Council of Nicaea.
No, there were Christians already on the planet. Now, I will give you this. There were Christianities before the Council of Nicaea. And what the Council of Nicaea did was help the Christianities become Christianity and started calling other groups heretics. But before the Council of Nicaea, there were Christianities where you had groups of Christians telling other groups of Christians, believe like this. This is orthodox. This is right belief. This is orthopraxy. This is right practice. You had a bunch of different groups making claims about what Christianity was, but you still had Christianities before the Council of Nicaea.
I believe there's a misunderstanding here, brother. Let me switch to because when I say I'm a Christian, I mean the body of Christ. So Christianity is something far off from the body of Christ. Christianity is the fundamentals of Christianity is that there are three persons in the Godhead.
Okay, so I'm going to rephrase the prompt for you. If you're a part of the body of Christ, you're in a cult.
Say that again, brother.
If you're a part of the body of Christ, you are in a cult. I took
Why is
Christianity
that?
out of the equation.
Okay, why is that?
You said, why is that? Okay, I'm going to put on the screen the definition of a cult. And I want you to tell me the question at first. I'm going to ask several questions. The first question is not, does this apply to Christianity? We're not even going to deal with that. The first question is just going to be, would you agree that these things make up a cult? All right, ready?
All right.
This is from Webster's. A cult is a group, such as an organization or religious sect, with tenets and practices regarded as coercive, insular, or dangerous. Do I need to break those words down for you, or are you okay with those words?
You don't have to, brother.
Okay, so do you think that this would make a group a cult if they're a group of people or organization with tenets, that means beliefs and practices that are regarded as coercive, insular, or dangerous? Would you agree that that's a cult?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does this apply to the body of Christ?
It doesn't.
So hold on. Let's start at the beginning. Is the body of Christ a group?
They are.
Does the body of Christ have beliefs and practices?
Yes, sir. We have.
Are the beliefs and practices of the body of Christ coercive, meaning
They are
the
not.
group wants you to think and live like them?
Come again?
The word coercive means there are exercises that people do to make others think and act like them. That's what it means to coerce somebody. I'm going to do something. I'm going to prevail upon you to think the way I want you to think and act the way I want you to act. Does that happen in the body of Christ?
It does, brother.
Okay. Is it insular? Insular means we're going to insulate and isolate ourselves from people who are not part of us. Does the body of Christ do that?
We do, brother.
And is the body of Christ dangerous to any
is
other
not.
group of people? It's not. What does the Bible say should happen to people who are homosexual?
Eternal punishment.
Eternal punishment. And not just eternal punishment, even punishment here on earth, depending on what part of the Bible you read, right?
What do you mean? Hold on, brother.
So parts of the Bible tell followers of the God of the Bible, followers of Yahweh, there are parts of the Bible that tell you what to do to a man who lays down with a man the way men lie down with women. There are to stone those people to death.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
That's dangerous. Wouldn't you agree that that's a dangerous thing to be saying to people?
It is not dangerous.
It's not dangerous to tell people that they can unalive other folk for having a sexual orientation that you don't think is God ordained? You don't think that's a dangerous thing to say to people?
No, that is an act of God.
Okay. I think maybe not to you, but I think to everybody who's watching, you're proving that this group is dangerous, and you've already admitted that it's insular and coercive. So just by that alone, according to Webster's dictionary, the body of Christ is a cult. The floor is yours if you want to disagree. You still here? All right, Eddie, I can't hear you. But I do have another call. I'm going to get to my other caller if you're not going to come back. Okay, I'm going to drop you, Eddie. Sorry about that. But I think you did help us. I think you helped us map out the cultish nature of Christianity. But please welcome to Ichabod. Jarrell, I'll bring you in a second if you want to turn your camera on. That would be great. We'd love to see you. You don't have to. It's fine. Just so you know, I'm not the type of podcaster that's looking to take clips where I just, if it doesn't go well for you, I'm not going to try to embarrass you and put you on a poster and embarrass anybody. It might not go well for me. So you don't have to worry about not being seen because it may not go too well. I don't do that to folks. All right, I'm going to bring in Jarrell. Welcome to Ichabod. What's up, Jarrell?
Hey, what's going on, man? Can you hear me well?
Definitely can. We've not spoken before, have we, Jarrell?
No, we haven't spoken before.
This is the day of new callers. That's what's up. Can you let us know where you're at with the idea, concept of God? Are you a theist? Are you atheist? Or are you agnostic?
Nah, I'm agnostic at the time. Yeah, I'm agnostic right now.
If you're agnostic right now, were you ever more firmly in the theist camp or atheist camp?
Yeah, I definitely was closer to the theist. I just recently stopped believing a couple of months ago or whatnot. I've been looking.
And if you don't mind,
yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind, you recently stopped believing what? What were you believing?
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, we can get into some stuff. I was recently considering myself an Israelite. Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you get that many calls.
I get a couple of calls from Israelites every once in a while. But so what got you to stop believing that? You don't have to say more than you want to say, but I'm just curious, what got you to stop believing?
All right, that's a man. That's a
well,
story.
Don't give me the whole story because I know it can be a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe give me the final straw for you.
Okay, let me see. The final straw was just me stumbling upon some of your videos, man. I'm the guy that was in the comment section that was talking about why you doing this to me, man.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's me.
Yo, welcome, Jarrell.
Yeah. I finally got a chance to call in.
That's what's up. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, wow.
But
I'm curious. Oh no, good. You got it.
Oh yeah. Just really quickly. Obviously, there were some cracks in there beforehand, or whatnot. Like you don't turn from something like just on a dime, or whatnot. Sure. And so, if I could give a quick thought about it, I'm in this Israelite belief like since like 2020. And the thing that started adding the cracks to me was, even though I didn't believe in the my bad, I'm forgetting the natural term. What's the rapture or whatnot? Even though I didn't really believe in that, I just was looking at a lot of people, because you know the recent one that happened last year, September or whatever, that everybody was going crazy about. And I started thinking about, man, how did everybody keep getting fooled on that? Like, how does everybody keep thinking that God is coming? I forgot all about
that. Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah. Like it always just would grab me. But then I started thinking within my own self. I was like, yeah, they look silly, but what am I waiting for?
Wow.
So I started, thinking just within my own self, like, what? I look kind of silly myself.
Israelites believe in the rapture?
So you got different type of Israelites.
Okay.
Let me see. Nah, mostly they don't.
Okay.
I think there may be a few here and there or something like that. So hold on,
wait, I'm curious. Does that mean, maybe you're already answering, does that mean you went from Christianity to being an Israelite?
Okay. No. Yeah, I'm about to throw it to you. Okay. I'm about to give it to you now. So I was raised Christian. up until like I was like 19, 20. And I actually went agnostic then. So this is like my second route. Yeah, this is like my second time coming back around to it. So I believed, I guess, in the rapture when I was being raised Christian during that time.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, I confused it. So basically, it's not that you were an Israelite who believed in the rapture as much as when you saw these Christians getting fooled, it made you, damn, even though you didn't believe what they believed, it caused you to look at the nature of belief and being fooled overall.
Exactly. I just, that was the crack that started for me where I was like, okay, hold on. And then also I had within recent years started to hear about the preterism and all of that. And I never gave those scriptures thought where it was talking about Christ had already, said that he was going to return to his generation and all of that stuff. So it all started coming together to me like, hold on. Yeah, like I said, I'm mocking these guys for believing that the rapture is coming today and all of that. And I really stopped doing it. And I'm like, dang, I look just as silly, don't I? Like, again, just wondering what am I waiting for?
So you said I look just as silly, but how do you get to the point where you're like questioning? I mean, I could see it, but I'm just curious. When you start saying this is probably not true, like what got you that far?
Well, like I said, when I stumbled upon some of your videos.
Oh, okay, I forgot.
It's as if I feel completely silly right now. I do. I feel completely silly because it is as if I caught amnesia or something and forgot all of the silly reasons. I forgot all of the reasons why I don't believe in this stuff the first time. It's like, and you were just recently talking like a couple of minutes ago about how you can't really, you would be surprised basically if somebody went back to Christianity or whatnot. So obviously I didn't go back to that, but the Israelite lens of the scriptures that did grab me. And it was like a perfect storm during that time. 2020 was just a very bad time.
Yeah.
It was a low point in my life for sure. And and I don't know. I got convinced by some of those scriptures that this was explaining our experience or whatnot as Black people.
Yeah. If you're not going to do all the research to dive in and only do the research that they tell you to do, it can be convincing. I've seen quite a few people, African American folk, who got swept up in thinking that they were Israelite. But I'm curious. Okay, so you detach yourself from that. How do you detach from theism and end up agnostic? Because even that's still a whole other leap.
Let me see.
And if you can't pull it up right now, it's fine. I'm just curious.
And sometimes I don't. I kind of am unsure which category I fall in, whether I'm atheist or agnostic on certain things. I 100% don't believe in the God of this Bible. That's for sure. But there could,
we can all say amen to that.
Yeah. I 100% don't believe in that crap. But there could be something out there. I don't know. But again, it was just me looking at some of the things, and of your video was one of the first videos of yours that caught me. And it's something that I used to always harp on back then, where it was a video you were saying hell is unjust and wicked or whatnot. And I got to thinking on that again, like there's no way a God could be doing something like that, sending people to just the eternal punishment. And this is something that we think is out there, like that truly exists.
There's so many entry points to deconstruction. So I get you on that. The hell stuff. One of the things that helped me be comfortable with agnosticism before I got to atheism, and I'm not saying that you have to get to atheism, but one of the things that helped me was when I deconverted from Christianity, I said, okay, if not this God, then which God? But what Christianity did, here's the great thing about Christianity that I think prepares you for atheism. Christianity tells you that there's a God who doesn't just sit up in yonder heaven, who pursues people. He comes after you. He's drawing you. He's calling you. He's sending prophets. He's doing things in your life to get you to look his way.
Right.
And then when you realize, oh, wait, the God that I thought was doing all that was not. What other God is? Nobody else has pursued me. And you got to start thinking, well, wait, then how did the God of the Bible pursue me? Well, he didn't. I just was raised around it, and I assumed that was him pursuing me. So wait, so all these other gods and these other religions, those gods aren't pursuing them either. They just were raised around it. So does that mean no God's pursuing anybody? And now I got to sit there and try to figure out, okay, so a God exists and it just doesn't pursue people. It just lets them grow up around whatever religion is popular. That helped me get to agnosticism. And then from there was a very short trip to atheism for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm pretty much in that direction. I really can't imagine at all anything else ever being able to grab me into any type of other belief. Again, I'm just still I'm still just blown away that I kind of did it twice, even though it wasn't Christianity.
Right.
I'm still blown away. Like, just go ahead. I'm sorry.
But what, aside from them telling you things about the Black experience and showing you stuff in Deuteronomy, making you think, oh, this is us, would you say that you were a truth seeker? Because I think that's if you want to like kind of give yourself a little bit of grace, I don't mind people ending up in different religions if all that is a sign that you were seeking the truth. You can't be too hard on yourself for seeking truth, even if what you found was not truth, but you believed it was at the time.
Right. I want to say that I was, man. I really do, because the funny part about this as well is that I went into it, like I kind of fell into it wanting to debunk it in a way. It's like I was skeptical of it, and you know, nobody like approached me or whatnot and was telling me about it. It's like I was some videos popped up or whatnot, which is how a lot of people, you know, wind up finding it. But
the age we live in.
yeah, 100%. So, but I think that was a huge part of it. And also it's like there was a part of me that kind of had to humble myself, because when I was in Christianity, I didn't really read much of the Bible.
Gotcha.
So, you know, so they're pulling out all type of scriptures and stuff like that I ain't never even heard before. And I'm kind of like, oh, okay, dang, that kind of sounds a little crazy. Oh, whatnot. Like, yeah. Okay, dang, I ain't hear that spin on it, yada, yada. And I mean, but just the biggest part of it was just the explanation of our experience in this life. It's like, that's how it grabbed me. But let me see, you know, I'm listening to it. And even with that, though, I still was a questioning person. So I started out very briefly among the kind of the street camps that you would see or whatnot, amongst that for a small part. And then I would, and then I would hear some stuff. I would hear some things, and I got up out of there pretty quickly. So yeah, I was gone with the quickness. So I had kind of been on by myself, off to myself, like, but still believing that I was Israelite. But I was like, I can't get with what's going on out there. I ain't cussing people out on the streets or whatnot.
So, since you've been out, do you miss? Because we one of my earlier callers was talking about some of the benefits of being in a cult. Like, would you say that the Israelites, would you say that they're a cult?
Yeah, it is.
One of the benefits of being in any cult is just the community. Like, what do you do for community now, or was it not that for you?
It was that to a degree, yeah. And that's the other part, is that, like, I know a specific brother that is among the camp, you know, one of the camps. So I know everybody may think of every single person that's on that as, you know, just straight up mad all the time and again cussing people out all the time. So I'm not going to generalize us in that way, or well,
Mhm.
them in that way now, I have to say. But
Mhm.
but yeah, 100%. It felt like a community to a degree. Like some brothers, yeah, they'll let you come over and just stay at their house, sleep at their house or whatnot.
Mhm.
They didn't
Mm.
quite know you from Adam or whatnot.
And
Some of
that's
the
how I know
feast.
you were really
Oh,
in. I don't know if they would.
yeah,
I don't know if they would say to you that you weren't. But the little slip you just made when you said us, I do
yeah,
that sometimes
yeah,
when I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
Christians because I
Uh,
was really in. You know what I
uh-huh.
mean? Like they could try to take the card from me, but no, it was us when I was in it. And even now, I
Yeah.
still have to separate the me that was in it from the me that's not. So yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Well, I tell you what, Jarrell, this little community here, like these folks
Uh,
who are here in the chat, we love welcoming people. We love being as much as we can be in terms of just like-minded people. That don't mean like we're not a cult. So we don't have to be
right.
like-minded about many things. If there's one thing we're like-minded about here, it's let's all try to believe true things and help each other get there. That's the
Hmm.
only thing we share here. Now we might share some other like, oh, I like that, or I like that, but there's no mandate that you have to think these things or believe these things. There are people who are in the chat right now that I might have some fundamental disagreements with, but we're all seeking truth and we all want to be better humans. So if you're looking for community at all, when I'm on here Mondays and Tuesdays, when I do the Life After Faith, this might be a place where you can just come to be around some folks just to like rub elbows and you know what I mean? Take down somebody's email address and reach out to them. And you don't even have
Right.
to do any of that. I'm just saying that this is potential one avenue for some community if you're missing like-mindedness in folks.
No, I hear that. I hear that. I appreciate that, man. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Indeed. Indeed. Jarrell, I appreciate you calling that. I loved that message because it was so real. Like, damn,
Yeah,
I thought I
yeah,
had
yeah,
locked my skepticism away. You're making
yeah,
me pop the
yeah,
lock on my
yeah. I thought it was
skepticism
done.
again.
Thought it was done. But like I said, man, I'm glad you did it though, man, because
Yeah.
I just you only want to believe falsehoods for so long before you able to snap out of it, you know. So
Well, they already said in the chat, they said, congratulations, Jarrell. Welcome, Jarrell. Everybody's like just happy to see somebody else. Like, hey, we need as many people as possible paying attention to reality. We live in a
right.
world right now with so many untrue things. You know, aside from the administration of this joke of a president, you got
Mhm.
AI, you got conspiracy theories online.
Yeah,
We just
yeah,
need some rational, reasonable people, as many as we can get.
yeah. That's big. That's big.
So, hey, much love to you, Jarrell. Thanks for calling in, bro.
All right, for sure, man. I appreciate you having me.
Yep, same to you, man. Get with you.
All right now.
All right, so the calls have been frequent and quick. But if you're a theist and you disagree that Christianity is a cult, this is your chance to call in. Matter of fact, let me give you the link one more again. The link is in the chat. I just put it in there. And if you're on Instagram, scroll up to my bio, click the link in the bio that says call in. Or if you're on Instagram, but you'd like to comment and be a part of the live chat, you can't comment on Instagram, but you can come over to YouTube by clicking on the link that says join us on YouTube. Same thing if you're on Facebook, because I haven't even looked at the Facebook comments. I'm sorry. But if you want to make comments that I actually see, come join us on YouTube. And the link for my YouTube is in my bio on Facebook. But the line is open if you want to call in. I'll even switch it up. If you don't want to talk about the Christianity as a cult prompt, and you want to talk about something else, maybe something you heard me say today, or something you heard me say prior to today, and you want to call and talk about that, that's fine too, because I'm on here normally for 3 hours. We're pushing up on 2. So I want to give you a chance to talk about what you want to talk about. Yes, and if you have a comment that you want responded to, super chat it to make sure it stands out. Otherwise, it'll get lost in the sauce. All right, we do have a caller. This is one of the calls I've been waiting for, I believe. I think I talked to this brother before, but still one of the calls I've been waiting for. All right. We got 2 callers, so let's see if we can make. I'm not going to rush, but let's see if we can get both of these callers in one after the other. All right. Welcome, I think, back to Ichabod, because I think we spoke before, but I know we speak a lot on Facebook. Welcome, Aaron. What's going on? I can't hear you. Hopefully you can hear me. Your mic does not look muted.
Hey, can you hear me?
I definitely can. Aaron, hopefully I'm not confusing you with somebody else. We've spoken before on this platform, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
And we've spoken several times on Facebook, correct?
Yeah, we interact with each other on Facebook pretty often.
And just so that I make sure I got the right person, your last name starts with a W, correct?
Correct. You can say my last name, Aaron, right? Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right. So we've had a good back and forth on Facebook, and I think we had a good conversation last time you called in to hear. But for those who don't remember you, for those who've never watched this before, can you tell us where you are ideologically when it comes to God? Are you theist? Are you atheist? Or are you agnostic? Or do you find yourself somewhere in between? Talk to us.
I am currently a theist. Hopefully I stay that way.
Currently a theist, and a theist of any particular religion?
Yeah, I'm a Christian.
Christian, last question, perhaps. The Bible, is it the word of God to you? And if the answer is yes, is it inerrant and infallible?
I believe that the Bible is the word of God. I don't believe that it is perfect in terms of like it has all of like its claims about science and things like that, but I believe it is perfectly preserving what God intended it to preserve, which is the theological points. So that's how I would answer that question.
So would you be willing to say, if it's perfectly preserved the theological points, would you be willing to say that all of the theological points in the Bible are infallible?
Would I be willing to say that all of the theological points are infallible? This is how I would answer that. I would say that Scripture is, in fact, the Word of God, and it's infallible in what God intends to affirm through it. So I don't necessarily.
I'm curious.
I don't necessarily affirm like inerrancy. Or for example, if by inerrancy you mean that every incidental description of the natural world must correspond with like modern scientific position, that I would no. My claim is whatever God intends the text to assert is in fact true. So like, yeah.
But do you see how that's a bit of a cop-out in this sense? You ever see somebody like they stumble when they're walking, and if they see that you saw them, they'll jokingly turn to you like, I meant to do that. And y'all laugh like, because they didn't mean to do that, but saying I meant to do that is the kind of a way to cover up the mistake that's there. If you say the Bible is infallible in all that God intended to communicate, what you've done is you've created a door that says, if I ever run into something that is proven to be wrong or in error, I can just say, God didn't mean to convey that. He meant to convey something else. And therefore, that verse that looks problematic, that I used to take literally, now I'm going to take that figuratively and just say God didn't intend to make it figurative. He meant to do this other thing that makes it look like it's not a mistake anymore. Sort of a cop-out. Like, can you see that?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think the way I look at it is that would be the case if I were deciding God's intention after discovering, an
I love
error.
that.
And so I would say that. So what I'm saying is that communicative intention has to be established before you can identify whether or not like there's an era. So like that's just like I would say that's just basic interpretation. And I also would argue that if you, Brady, right? I don't know too much about you. And the reason I don't know too much about you, like I know that the things that I can see, like you're a black man. I know you're from Philadelphia. I know that you know you're into hip hop. These are all things that you've revealed through your behavior. So if I were to say, you know, Brady never was associated with anybody from Cross Movement, that would be wrong because you revealed, you know, to us on your shows and in general that statement is true. So I believe God likewise, if you're doing an internal critique, under my view, God is real and he can reveal things. So I don't think that's inconsistent in my view. God can have communicative intention, essentially.
Right. So I think I'm remembering a conversation that we had last time. We kind of got into a little heated back and forth about what was God intending to communicate in early Genesis. Was that you?
I don't know. Maybe we might have gotten
maybe
into
not.
Genesis. I think we did. I think so. Maybe I talked to a lot of people. I'm doing a lot of debates.
Yeah,
so we
same here. Same here. So let's just say if God intended to communicate that the earth was here before the sun, that would be an error, right? If God intended to communicate that.
You would have to establish that.
No. I'm before we even get there, I'm just saying hypothetically, if God intended to communicate that the earth was here before the sun, that would be an error, correct?
Yeah, but you would have to establish.
You're jumping to the defense. I'm not charging the Bible with error. It's just a hypothetical at this point. You can feel free to say yes or no.
You're saying that if God intended to communicate something that is an error, you're saying that it's an error. Is that what you're saying? I'm confused.
Well, I'm actually asking.
Like if God said, because if God said, you know, the way babies are made, or the seed of a man is in his back, like Allah does, then if God says that, then that's wrong. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, that's a great example. The Quran says that the semen comes from the back part of a man. And you could look at the Quran and say that's erroneous. And similarly, if God intended, because we haven't gotten to the intention yet, but if God intended to communicate what Genesis 1 says, which is the earth was here before the sun, if God intended to communicate that, that would be an error, correct? Just like the semen coming from the back.
That is correct, and I would say that would 100% constitute now an error. That would be a problem for my view of scripture. But notice that, you know, notice what I'm granting you. Like you would have to establish that.
Nope, I don't. I got you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got you. Once again, I'm talking about it hypothetically because it's just a good example in front of my mind. I'm not even going to whether or not God intended to communicate that. I'm just standing on the precipice saying, since we know, well, let me just say this one. Since we have very good reasons to believe that the sun was here before the earth, if the Bible intends to communicate the opposite, if the God of the Bible intends to communicate the opposite, then the God of the Bible would be communicating error. We could just agree, just principally, hypothetically, if God intended to do that, then God would be in error. But if you're willing to grant me that, I want to have a different conversation. Not, did God intend that? That's not even what I'm concerned about right now. I want to ask a different question. The question I want to ask is, if it would be erroneous for God to intend to communicate that, is it not also erroneous for God to allow people to think he's communicating that when he's not? Because you don't think God's communicating that, do you?
I don't think I'm following who you are.
Yep, I got you. So you don't think that the hypothetical that I laid out is true. You don't think that God intended to communicate that the earth was here before the sun, even though Genesis 1 says that. You don't think God intended to communicate that, right?
Not everything that is in the Bible in regards to what's in the scriptures is what God intends. So like when you have I just want to be clear in how I'm answering.
If you could just answer the question and then give me you don't think God intended to communicate that the earth was here before the sun, even though Genesis 1 says that, right?
I'm saying, so how about this for sake of argument? Because I know that this is like your garden path, but I'm just going to say I'm agnostic to that. How about that? So you're asking me a question. I'm saying that you would just have to show me the evidence. So I'm not going to, because it's like you're trying to back me into a claim that I can just say, I'll follow the evidence wherever it goes. I've already given you my principle and I grant
But you've read Genesis 1 a billion times, I'm sure.
I've read Genesis 1, but what I'm saying to you, Brady, is that I've given you my principle and I've actually showed you that, again, this is how this can be falsified. Okay. I don't know what else I need to give you here.
I got you. So you don't know whether or not God intended to communicate Genesis 1 literally, and you're also willing to grant that if God did intend to communicate it literally, God would be in error. No, that's where we're at.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you could show in an example that God intended to communicate something in Genesis that we can empirically measure and see that it is wrong, and God intended to communicate in that way, then I would say that it would be an error.
You said the same thing I just said in more words.
Exactly. So I'm granted. I've already granted you that, though. So it's like the same thing.
Right, but I'm trying to figure out why you had to say it again a different way. If God intended to communicate something in Genesis 1 that is not true, for example, that the earth came before the sun, that would be an error on God's part. That's one thing you're granting me. Then the other thing that you're stating is, but you don't know whether or not God intended to communicate that literally. You're agnostic about that, right?
No, I don't. I'm actually not following the like. Again, you
what were you just admitting? What were you just saying that you were agnostic about? Help me with that.
Okay, so you went to, is God not erroneous for allowing other people to think something or to write something? That's what you said, correct?
The question was, would it be an error on God's part if, even if he didn't intend for Genesis 1 to be taken literally, he allows people to think that way?
Okay, so again,
that was the question.
So when you say literally, are you saying literally in respect to chronology, or literally in respect to
in
like
Genesis 1, the earth is here before the
cosmology?
sun comes. If you take that literally, you think the earth was here before the sun. If you take Genesis 1 literally, that's the view you get.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is that you haven't established a particular proposition. So you want to use what you haven't basically established what proposition you're making here. And I'm trying to understand, because for example,
all my propositions have been hypothetically expressed at this point. And I'm just trying to get you to
I can have a positive interpretation. I can have a positive interpretation of Genesis while still requiring you to demonstrate that God intended, for example, the earth existed before the physical sun. So basically, like, you have two different statements. You have one is, if God intends to assert P and P is false, then that's an error, and I'm granting that. But Genesis 1 actually intends to insert P, is what you're claiming, correct?
Nope, I'm not even going there. I've tried to let you know that I'm speaking hypothetically for a reason.
Okay.
And then after you granted my hypothetical, you made the statement that you're agnostic. I thought you made the statement that you were agnostic as to whether or not God intends in Genesis 1 to communicate that the earth was here before the sun or not. You said you were agnostic about that. That's what I thought.
So the reason, I understand. The reason I said I was agnostic on that is because I was trying, I'm not sure what your intentions is with your argument. So I'm saying I'm saying that.
Why are you answering based on my intentions? It's a question. It's either yes or no.
Because it's not just a question. You're setting up a garden path to essentially, like, you're doing an internal critique essentially. So it's not as if we're like just having a friendly conversation. Like, I'm on your show, We're having a debate. So
Yeah,
I don't
but
know.
you're still
I don't know.
answering
You're,
my
you're not.
intentions
You're not.
as opposed to my question.
No,
as opposed to my question.
You're posing a hypothetical, Brady. So I'm trying to obviously be consistent in my worldview,
Okay.
and also while also answering your question honestly.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Since you say you want to answer my question honestly,
Yeah.
are you in fact agnostic about whether or not God intended for people to think the earth came before the sun? Are you really agnostic about that or no?
No, I actually just don't know your argument. So you could have an argument that could possibly trip me up. So I actually don't know. So I'm taking an agnostic position because you could
This
say
is not a
something-
good faith. This is not a good faith conversation
How,
right now.
wait a minute, Brady. How is it not good faith if I'm saying you're asking a question about a hypothetical about about God's intentions, and I'm saying that
Whether or not I trip you
I'm saying-
up is not.
hold on, Brady.
Whether
you're
or not
missing-
I'm
you're
trying to
missing- you're
trip you
missing
up
the
is
point.
not the point.
I think you're missing the point. I'm saying that you could have an argument that falsifies because I've already granted that under my view it can be falsified. So I'm saying that I'll be agnostic in regards to the point you're trying to make. I don't see how that's inconsistent.
So let me just jump to my point rather than try to
Yeah,
walk
go ahead.
through it the way I was trying to walk through
I've been waiting for you to do that, man.
it. I wanted you to commit to something before I did, because if
I've
you're-
already
this
committed
is what
to
I said at
something.
the no, you really didn't. You really didn't. You granted me one thing, and then you've been very non-committal because, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, as long as you've got a door that says the Bible is infallible in what God intended to communicate, but you said you've got to state what the intention was before you figure out whether or not it was inerrant or in error or not. And I'm trying to get you to state what you think the intention was, but you won't do that. You're agnostic about it because you're afraid I'm trying to trip you up.
What I'm saying, so let me try to understand. I'm not being very clear. So let me try to argue this in a different way. What I'm saying is that I'm not presently committed to the proposition that Genesis 1 intends to teach some sort of scientific chronology. So the physical earth existed before the physical sun. So to that particular point. So if you're asking whether I affirm that proposition, no, I don't affirm that proposition. So if you're asking whether I'm open to hearing an argument that the text intends for that, then I'm open to hearing that. So
I'm not even going to spend time on it. I'm going to advance the conversation to this point.
Okay. Go ahead.
You said that the Bible is infallible on its theological points, not necessarily its scientific points. One of the theological points of early Genesis is, however creation came to be, the God of the Bible is the one who created. Would you agree that that's the theological point of Genesis 1? That this particular God, the God of you don't even get Yahweh's name until you get to chapter 2. But once you sew chapter 1 on to chapter 2, it's the same God. Would you agree that the theological point of Genesis 1 is Yahweh is the one who made the heavens and the earth? That's the theological point. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
The theological point is that God, the God of Israel, is the creator
Got you.
of the world. Yes.
Question: how would you vet the claim that this God is, because anybody can make a claim that their God is the creator of heaven and earth? How would you vet the claim that this particular God is the God of heaven and earth?
How would I vet the claim that's being validated in? Are you asking me like why I believe that like Yahweh is the God of the? I'm confused. Like, are you asking me specifically about
Yes,
Genesis?
I'm saying that if the theological point of Genesis 1 is this particular God is the one who made the heavens and the earth, whether or not you get into what came first, the earth or the sun, whether or not you get into all that could be figurative, it could be a whole bunch of stuff. But the theological point, even if the science is wrong, because you allow that science is not trying to get science right, it's trying to get theological points right. My question is, okay, how do you know that the Bible is making the right theological point in Genesis 1?
Yeah, so let me try to answer that best I can. I wouldn't vet the claim merely by like going to Genesis, I'm going to look at like any claim of, you know, anybody can make a claim about God creating the universe. So I'm going to evaluate the truth of Christianity at the worldview level. I'm going to look at the explanatory power of it. I'm going to look at whether or not it's internally consistent. And I'm also going to look at ultimately whether or not the Christian worldview can account for the preconditions that we're using to evaluate.
You're answering the
truth or not.
question
So-
that you like answering. You're not answering the question that I asked. How would you verify, vet, validate if the Bible is, in your eyes,
I just told
infallible
you
when
how.
it comes to making theological claims? How would you vet the claim that the God of the Bible is the one who made the heavens and the earth, like Genesis 1 says? You said you would judge it based on the validity of Christianity's other claims about how you live and whether it can be the precondition of knowledge and all that. How does that get you to, oh, so this must be the God of Genesis 1?
I think you're asking a different question because I just answered your question. I just told you I wouldn't validate the claim merely by going back to Genesis, that I'm going to look at the entire worldview. So I don't know if do you want to ask a different question, because I clearly answered your question. Like I clearly answered it.
So the answer to the question is, because Christianity is pragmatically functioning for you, you're willing to believe all of the other theological claims it makes as far back as Genesis 1. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, but you're asking me a claim almost as if, like you're asking me a claim that's almost like empirically. Like you're asking me about, like, how would I directly observe the act of creation? So I don't have any way.
Nope.
To, like you're asking the claim. So I don't have any way to.
That's not what I'm asking.
I don't have any. Let me answer. So what are you asking?
Yeah, that's
Because
not.
I
So
can't-
let me
I can't
put myself
validate.
in your.
When you said validate or verify, right? Are you not talking about me empirically observing something? Because I told you what I would do, how I would verify it philosophically. I made a philosophical argument on how I would look at its explanatory power. I'm going to look at whether or not it's internally consistent. I'm going to look at whether or not the Christian worldview actually gives me the very preconditions of logic and things of that nature.
So
like,
I'm going to try to still man your position, but I'm going to paraphrase like I just did, because I think I tried to just sum up what your position is. Your position is, because Christianity pragmatically and functionally works out for you in other ways, you're willing to trust the other claims it makes about theological issues, even as far back as what it says in Genesis 1. That's what you're saying, right?
No, that's not a still man at all.
You just talked about Christianity providing you the preconditions for knowledge. You talked about its worldview claims, and you said because of that, that is how you're going to vet or verify
Never said
what
that.
you're reading about the theological points in Genesis 1, didn't you?
No, never said that. My position, I'm not saying that Christianity is true because it works for me pragmatically, or because it helps my life.
No one's
because
saying
it helps.
you said that.
But you said you were going to
paraphrase. You said that.
So I'm trying
Nope,
to. I'm trying
I did
to
not say that you. Nope. Listen, I did not say that you said Christianity is true because it were that. I said the question was, how would you verify what's the theological points of Genesis 1? Your answer was, because Christianity gives you a worldview that pans out, and because it gives you the precondition for knowledge, because Christianity is doing those things for you, that was your answer to why you're willing to trust the theological points it makes in Genesis 1. Was it not?
No. So I'm saying that I have independent reasons to think that Christianity is true. So you're asking me
You're
again.
not answering the question that I
Brady,
asked. I didn't ask you why you think Christianity is true. I asked you how you would verify the claims, the theological claims of Genesis 1. You're answering about why Christianity is true. I didn't ask you that.
But I know, but that's a part of the claim. So you're asking me a question about how would I verify? And again, when you say verify, you're not talking about empirically. You're talking about philosophically, right? Because I've already granted I can't verify God creating the world empirically, like I can go back and observe it. So I'm making a philosophical argument on how I would verify it.
So let me
Does
talk
that make
about
sense?
me.
Like I'm gonna give you an
you're-
example. Let me give you an example. Like in Islam, right? I can make a philosophical argument because it's not internally consistent. There are theological contradictions. Those theological contradictions don't exist in the Genesis account. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
First of all, theological contradictions do exist in the Genesis account. But before we can even get
you
there,
would have to make that argument and show me then that.
I wrote a whole book about it. It's called Let There Be Gaslight, and it's available on Amazon in hardback, paperback, digital, and audio. But either way, what I'm saying to you right now is, so if somebody asked me, right, how I would verify, how I would vet the claim that the theological positions being stated in Genesis, that this particular God is the God that deserves worship, this is the God of heaven and earth, how I, as a Christian,
Wait, say that again. You said deserve worship. That's not what you asked me. You said is the God, like you didn't say deserves worship.
I'm adding that
true.
in. I'm adding that in because
Okay.
if there is a God who's the creator of heavens and earth, clearly this God deserves some kind of praise for the heavens and the earth that we get to witness. So I'm just adding that in. But how I would verify that this particular God is that God, is the one who's responsible for that, is I will look at the claims of this God. And so I would not feel the luxury of saying, I don't take Genesis 1 literally, or I don't take Genesis 1. I would say, if this God is telling me this is how he created the heavens and the earth, I would look for some kind of verification that what this book says happened in the beginning is actually what we see having happened. And the second I see something in reality that contradicts what I see in that chapter, I would say this is either figurative or it's fiction. I would be faced with that immediately. Mm-hmm. And I think anybody who reads the Bible is faced with those two choices. Genesis 1 is either figurative or fiction. It cannot be fact.
Okay, so you're saying that if God claims to have created the world in a particular way, you're going to compare that description to what you can independently ascertain about the world, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And keep in mind, and I'm not saying that if it contradicts that I immediately rule it out, but I do say, like I said, this is either figurative or fiction. I have to go there once I see the book contradicting with nature.
Understand. So, and I actually would agree with that principle. You know, if God intends to tell me that this is physically how I created the universe, then yes, and I should expect the claim to correspond with reality. And if it doesn't, then that's a problem.
Because here's why it's a problem, Aaron. Because other than that, I don't know how I could vet the claim that this is the God. Even if you showed me a bunch of other things that look like, oh, look, prophecy here, or look, the worldview pans out here, or look, this God would be, he would qualify to be the precondition for our knowledge. So this, even if you showed me all that, none of that would make me trust what I read in Genesis 1. And so I'm asking you, how do you trust? Because you said the Bible is infallible when it comes to its theological claims. And I just brought up a theological claim that the God of the Bible, Yahweh, is the one who created the heavens and earth. And I'm asking you how you get to the point of trusting that claim. Your answer to me was a bunch of things that don't do a bit of work to vet the Genesis 1 claim that this is the God who did that. Like the Muslim could say, Allah made the heavens and the earth. He's the precondition for knowledge. He's the one who holds everything together by the word of his power. The Muslim can make that claim. And the way you said you would vet it is you would look for contradictions in the theology. And I'm saying, if that's how you would vet Islam's claims, how do you vet the Bible's claims? Because you got similar contradictions in the Bible.
So are you basically saying that even if Christianity does something elsewhere, how does that give you a warrant for a particular unobservable claim that's being made in Genesis about Yahweh creating the heavens and the earth? Because a Muslim could just say that Allah created the heavens and the earth, correct?
That's part of what I'm saying. Yes, and but I would say it's not necessarily that it's unobservable, because we observe things today that tell us about the past. So no, we weren't there when the God spoke and said, "Let there be," but we see things that tell us about early Earth's history. And if that doesn't correspond to the "Let there be" story, then we've got to do something different with the story. We either have to take it figuratively or call it fiction.
I understand. So I understand the crux of your question. I think that I would do you know of a guy named he just recently converted to Christianity, Joe
Schmidt.
Joe Smith, right? Super bright guy. Would you agree?
I don't know too much about him. I only heard him one time, and he didn't sound too bright when I heard him.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I got you.
critiquing,
I got you. I got you. Don't worry about it. He's extremely bright. You know, before he became a Christian, he was a big opponent for theists, right? He did videos. I know you're familiar with Matt Dillahunty. He did videos responding to Matt Dillahunty. I don't think anybody would debate, because you don't know him, so it's fine. So I'm not gonna. You don't know him, but I don't think anybody would debate that he's extremely philosophically strong, and you know, he's working on his PhD at Princeton right now.
Not very skeptical, but sure, I'll give you all that.
Yeah. Well, he's not. He was an agnostic for a while, but anyway, the reason I brought that up is because he just recently did an interview, and in the interview, this is answering your question. In the interview, he was talking about how he was asking him about, you know, homosexuality, and he was asking him about, I think it was the problem of evil, right? And he said that you know, he found that extremely compelling as an atheist and as an agnostic, and even to this day, he still finds it extremely compelling. Specifically, what he went back to was okay, maybe I can't I don't think that every proposition from a reliable, you know, source has to be independently verified proposition by proposition before I can rationally believe it. And his example was the resurrection of Christ. So he says that, you know, if a guy literally rises from the dead, right? And then this guy also, you know, tells you that like hell is real. So even though I might have reservations about eternal conscious punishment, the fact that this guy rose from the dead, and I saw him die, and he literally rose from the dead 3 days after, I think is enough to like deal with my own sort of, you know, problems with, or my own sort of finite moral problems with hell. So the reason I'm saying that in regards to Christianity is that I cannot verify that Genesis 1 is true because I can't observe it. I would just say I believe it. Like
Okay.
I believe that God created the heavens and the earth based on everything else that's verified, but I can't go like
What
you could
else
take
is
me
verified?
through, you could take
What
you could take me through proposition, and you're going to find multiple times things I can't verify, but I could do the same thing with your own current worldview. You, like as a skeptic, there are plenty of things that you can't verify, but yet you're still a skeptic. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't really think
Well,
that
no.
that's
So here's
a
the
good
thing.
argument.
No, it's worth cutting in here to say the thing about me is my worldview largely contains things that can or have been verified, and if it can't, I hold it very, very tangentially and very loosely. That's the difference between me and the cultish thinking of Christianity. Is you hold things that you can't verify. It's not just Genesis 1 that you can't verify. You can't verify the resurrection, but you believe that.
That's not true. What do you mean I can't verify the resurrection? We have eyewitness.
You can
testimony.
verify the resurrection of Jesus.
We have not empirically, but what does that got to do anything? That's not the
In
only
what
type
way?
of.
Can,
That's
in
not.
what way can?
Real quick.
Wait.
You
In
asked a
what way
question. I
can
wanted to
verify
answer
the
it,
resurrection
Brady.
of Jesus?
Wait, Brady, can I answer the question because you asked it the first time? Now you're asking a different question. So can I answer the first question you asked, or do you want to ask a different one? It's just show. I mean, I'm not gonna.
No. Go ahead. I don't
Okay.
even remember the question. Go ahead.
Okay, so when you say verify, you don't just mean empirically verify, correct?
I mean in any way.
Okay, so in any way, would you accept eyewitness testimony? Like, would you agree that eyewitness testimony is enough to verify something?
No.
So eyewitness testimony doesn't work. Why? What's your justification for not accepting eyewitness testimony?
Eyewitness testimony is simply a claim. Claims need to be supported by evidence. Otherwise, they remain claims until more evidence can be. If you say, yo, somebody coming through here in 5 minutes and they said they're going to beat you up, that's a claim. I need evidence. If I hear somebody knocking on my door, I'm like, oh, there goes the evidence. But until then, it was just a claim. Eyewitness testimony is not evidence. That's where Joe Schmidt and Matt Dillahunty got into it, right? Because Joe Schmidt, you see in his conversion, he's taking all these miracle claims as evidence instead of what they are, testimony. Testimony is not evidence. You have no way to verify a resurrection. None.
Okay. I want to challenge that for a second. Let's
do it.
Why isn't eyewitness testimony evidence? Because, you know, it may be a type of evidence that you might not, agree with, but I'm trying to understand, like,
what is evidence?
Why? Hold on, I'm trying to finish. Let me finish the question. So, why would you? Because you're saying it's not evident. So I'm asking you, well,
so hold on. How
are you making that move?
When I just cut in and said, what is evidence? That was me trying to speed the conversation along because I knew where you were going. You asked me, how am I making that move? The question is, what is evidence? That the answer to that will tell you how I'm making that move. What is evidence?
Well, I would say that in the case of eyewitness testimony, you could have evidence would be you could have no,
because you're baking the answer into the definition. Not in the case of eyewitness testimony, just in general. What is evidence?
Yeah, but we're not just talking about in general, we're talking about eyewitness testimony.
No, sir. I'm asking you, what is evidence? Can you just tell me what evidence? Because I'm telling you, eyewitness testimony is not evidence. We have to figure out, what do we mean by evidence before we can answer the question? What is evidence?
Proof. It would be like proof to something.
Is it possible for something to be proof if it leads to two competing explanations and neither one of, like, you can't figure out which one it is? Would you call that proof?
No, because in order for it to be
Bingo.
proof, you have to have
Bingo.
whether it has to be false or it has to be right or wrong or true or
So
false.
my answer to the question of what is evidence is,
but under that definition, why wouldn't testimony count as evidence? Because
let me cook for a second and I'll answer. Trust me.
Okay.
Aaron, I know where you're going. Let me cook for a second and I'll answer your question. All right.
Okay, go ahead.
You said proof, and I said would you call it proof if it pointed to two competing possibilities? You said no. And I said bingo. There's a reason why I said bingo. Evidence is information or data points that only lead to one conclusion. If it leads to more than one conclusion, you don't have evidence yet. You got to do some more work. If it only leads to one conclusion, that's your evidence. It only leads to this. So if you would agree that that's a good definition of evidence, here's why eyewitness testimony is not that. Simple question. Do people lie?
Yeah, of course.
Can people be mistaken?
Yeah.
If people lie, or they could not even be lying, but be mistaken, how would an eyewitness testimony only lead to one possible conclusion? You've already got those two, and neither one of them is truth.
Yeah, but I think can I respond to that? Because I think you're making a move that's kind of a weak move, because you're basically saying that if you don't have evidence that leads into conclusive proof, right? Because there's like something can be conclusively proven. So because I think in that case you're kind of like, because we're talking about you kind of have to do this because the eyewitness testimony. Let me finish. The eyewitness testimony is so overwhelming. You got to basically throw out eyewitness testimony But
Aaron,
I will say
Aaron,
that
help us out. Where is the overwhelming eyewitness testimony to the resurrection? Where?
Can I finish? Evidence doesn't have to entail that only one possible conclusion in order for it to be counted as evidence. Evidence is something that raises or lowers sort of the probability of a particular proposition. You understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
If you just said you wouldn't call something proof if it led to two possibilities. You said, no, that's not proof.
No,
I'm going off what you said.
That's not what I said. I said,
go back and listen. I promise you that's what you said.
Yeah, but what did I say after that?
First, you just said that's not what you said. Now you're saying, but that's not what I said after that.
Brady, what I'm saying is that when you asked that question, I answered it and I gave you two answers. I answered yes so that you could have your answer, and then I said when we're talking about it has to be either true or false. So the reason that distinction is important is because if something isn't true or false, meaning that it's just like evidence to no conclusion, then we're not talking about anything. It has to be either going towards something being true or something being false. And that's what I said in my answer.
If a woman says she was sexually harassed by her boss,
irregardless of that, Brady.
Listen. If a woman says she's sexually harassed by her boss,
this conversation is kind of going in circles, man.
She gives her testimony, her side of the story. Is that evidence?
It could be evidence. It could be. Depends on everything else around it. But yeah, that could definitely be counted as evidence.
No, everything else around it is the evidence. That's the claim. Everything else around it is the evidence that either supports the claim or it doesn't.
No,
eyewitness testimony is not evidence.
I think I just misheard what you just said. So
okay.
So let me hear something. So if a woman makes a claim and she says, my boss sexually harassed,
and she tells you the story. Let me finish first-hand account of the story.
Okay, that's her first-hand account. Okay, that's her claim. And then someone else corroborates that, and they say, hey, I actually saw him do it. I was sitting, outside, and I saw him do it, and then I saw her run outside the office. Would that constitute as evidence to her claim?
It would be supporting, but it wouldn't be evidence. Like it makes the claim stronger, but you still are looking for, was he there? Were there cameras? Does she? You're looking for things to corroborate the story, the claim.
I don't mean to laugh, but that's crazy, Brady. Come on now, that's ridiculous.
So wait.
So let me ask you a
question.
You
just said a minute ago.
If your kid comes to the house and they say, "Daddy, Lil Jeffrey punched me in my face," right? Lil Jeffrey punched me in my face, right? You're gonna go out and you're gonna do an investigation, right? You're gonna go look for Lil Jeffrey. And Lil Jeffrey says, "Hey, I didn't punch your son in the face." And then little Jeff, three other boys that were standing right there said, "Yes, we all saw Lil Jeffrey punch your son in the face." Are you going to say, I need to look for the camera? It's like, let me go. Let's look at the street lights here. No, you're going to believe those three kids. You're going to believe those three kids, right?
No, I'm not. Listen. I had almost this exact conversation with somebody on Facebook under my post about Joe Schmidt, where I tagged Matt Dillahunty, and people were challenging the conversation between Joe Schmidt and Matt Dillahunty. Had this exact conversation where somebody said, if my daughter comes home from school and says she's been bullied, I'm going to believe my daughter because she's got no reason to lie. And my question was, how do you know your daughter has no reason to lie? How do you know that she doesn't just hate the other kid?
Yeah, but that wasn't the example I said.
I know, I understand, but okay. Listen. Right. Even when you introduce other children into the story, how do you know that they're not in cahoots? You've got all these. So here's what happened in the conversation on Facebook. What we ended up realizing or saying in the conversation is, even if you got a situation where somebody says, I saw her run out of the office, and so that corroborates that part of her story, that person didn't see what happened in the office. Or even if that person does say that they saw what happened in the office, you know what you're going to do next? You're going to bring in character witnesses. You're going to try to find out, does this person have a history of lying? Or are they generally a truth teller? You're going to find out all these things to support whether or not you should believe this person's claim, because even if it's 5 people that say they saw it, it's still just claims. And you still need something to make those claims trustworthy. The claims by themselves are not.
Yeah, but Brady, here's the problem with what you're saying, right? And this is I won't bring that up. Anyway, here's the problem with what you're saying. You're basically saying that you're basically taking the position of a radical skeptic, right? I'm gonna tell you why this is radical, right? Because you're saying, well, everyone could be lying. It could be 100 people. It could be 100 people by your own logic.
It could be no. All you need is one.
Can I get the, okay? I'm just going to use 100 though. So there could be 100 people that witness, a murder, right? 100 people, and you
no. Hold on, wait. Keep your same point, but change it from a murder. No. Listen, help me out. Change it from a murder to a miracle.
No,
it could be 100 people. I'm going to do. Please do it with a miracle. Please do it with a miracle.
Brady, we're talking about evidence right now, right? So if you want to go to miracle,
testimony is evidence.
I understand that, but if you want to move the goalposts, that's fine. But we're talking about evidence.
I'm not moving the goalposts. I want you to make the same point that you're about to make.
No.
But just use miracle instead of murder.
Brady, what I'm trying to prove to you is that evidence is. I'm sorry, that eyewitness testimony is evidence. We're not talking about miracles. Right now, we're talking about eyewitness testimony being evidence. So
make the same point you were about to make. Just switch out the word murder for miracle, because we're not talking about murder right now either.
Okay, so
why can't you switch out murder to miracle?
Okay, so even if I were to grant you that, right, and even if I were to grant, we can talk about a miracle for an example, right? That doesn't change.
There you go. 100 people saw it. Go ahead, make your point.
Okay, so we'll have in this example that 100 people saw a miracle, right? We'll say the miracle was a woman who didn't walk for 7 years, and then matter of fact, we won't even say, a woman that couldn't walk for 7 years, and 100 people just saw this woman jump up after a person prayed for her, right? That's a miracle, right? Doctor said she would never walk again, and somebody prayed for her and she got up. 100 people saw that. Right?
100 people say they saw that.
Hold on for a second.
Just say it correctly. 100 people say it. No, you can't say 100 people saw that.
100 people are witnesses to.
No, once again, you're saying they say. You're saying they're witnesses. That's not what we're talking about.
Brady.
They say they're witnesses is what we're talking about.
You won't even let me get it out. I get what you're
because
doing.
Because you're not saying it correctly.
Okay, so let's find. Let's. My hypothetical doesn't. You got to make it your hypothetical essentially, right? So I'm giving you hypothetical, and you won't let me make the hypothetical.
You're making them witnesses, and then you're comparing that to claims of witnesses. No. You know what? I am. Hold on. No. You know what? You're right. Witnesses. Make them witnesses. You're right. You're right.
Okay.
You're right.
Okay.
I have a different point that I'm thinking about, and I'm moving ahead. But you're talking about witnesses versus claims of witnesses. So go ahead.
Right.
Witnesses,
so these 100 people see this. They actually see the woman get prayed for, and they see her.
No, you're wrong. I'm sorry. I was trying to give it to you.
Oh my God.
I was trying to give it to you. No, I was trying to give it to you because we're not talking about people who are actually witnesses. We're talking about testimony. Testimony is saying I witnessed it. That's not the same thing.
Brady, what are you talking about? If I say I saw you, if I say I saw you walk down the street going to the store and rob the store, that's my testimony that I saw you.
Yes, that's different. Okay. That's different than saying different.
I saw you. It's listen. The same thing. I'm reporting what I saw. It's my eyewitness testimony.
Aaron, I say I saw you is a different statement than I saw you.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, would you agree with that? Say I saw you is a different statement than I saw you.
Brady,
it is not.
Brady,
if people can lie and be mistaken, they cannot be the same sentences.
Brady, I understand what you're saying right now, but you won't even let me get the hypothetical out because I'm responding to your point. And the point I'm trying to make is that you are being a radical skeptic in this particular situation because you are saying that essentially, right? These individuals who claim that they saw something. Let me just make it better for you because you won't let me make the hypothetical. I want to make so I'll make your hypothetical. I'm sorry, I'll make a hypothetical that you're wanting me to make, and show you that even that doesn't help your argument. Okay,
let's go.
So these individuals who claim to have witnessed a miracle,
right?
You're saying that because they could be lying.
Or mistaken.
Lying,
or otherwise motivated.
Lying or mistaken, right?
Or otherwise motivated.
It brings in. We have to account for that. So we have to bring that into question. That's what you're saying, correct? Am I getting that right?
Yes.
Because those things could be true, right?
Those things being that they could be lying, mistaken, or otherwise motivated.
Yeah, those things could be true, right?
True.
Okay, wouldn't that require evidence?
Yes.
Okay, so if that would require evidence, then you just bringing that up out of your brain, just saying it's an option, that requires evidence, because that's a claim. If you're saying that they could be lying, that's a claim that requires evidence, correct?
Yes, correct. But that doesn't do anything for your case, because all I'm saying is baked into why and when we believe something, there are other evidences that are, like me saying yes to that is baked into that. We understand that making claims is not all we need to move forward on the claim. We need something to corroborate the claim.
I understand that.
And making that claim is corroborated by how we live our lives. That's the evidence that what I'm saying is true.
I get it, but when you say, well, these individuals could be lying, that's like you're making another claim that requires evidence.
You already admitted that people could be lying.
It doesn't matter.
We don't need evidence. We don't need evidence that people could be lying.
Brady, that doesn't matter, because that requires evidence. So that's just blah blah. You're just saying blah blah. Okay, what's your evidence for that? I don't have any evidence. It's an option.
Aaron, I did not say I don't have any evidence. I said,
okay, so what's your evidence that the people were lying in the Bible?
I didn't say that they were lying. I said that they could be lying.
Okay, so what's the evidence they could have been lying?
Our evidence for the fact that they could be lying is we know that people can lie. So if people can lie, then they could be lying. That is the evidence.
Okay, so let me see if I got it right. Tell me if I got this right.
That's not radical skepticism. That's how we live our lives.
Okay, let me see if I got what you're saying right. Okay, because maybe I'm not that smart. I'm be honest with you. I honestly not. I'm not even trying to be. I'm not that smart. I'm not formally educated, so maybe I'm missing something. Right? People could be lying, right? So the fact that people lie generally, right? People lie. We can extrapolate.
They could be lying.
We can extrapolate that is now evidence that they are lying, or that they could be lying, right?
I don't know how you got that. Well, that they could be lying. Yes.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So then let me see if I can understand something then. They could be lying is a possibility.
One of many.
Therefore, their testimony isn't evidence. Is that the argument?
Yes.
Okay. So
and like I said, it's not
so
just
that inference. I know, but
explanations.
Okay, but that inference. I know, but the problem here is that inference doesn't actually follow without an actual another premise. So you would need another premise, an argument in there. So, for example, like you can say, I'm not asking, whether lying is possible or something like that. You basically have to show not just that lying is possible, but in this actual example that you would have to show that the mere possibility of lying eliminates the actual evidence that is corroborating the actual testimony. What is the evidence? The evidence is the corroborating testimony. And you would have to argue, like, for example, this is how it works in the courtroom. I don't know what's so funny. If you're in a courtroom, right, and I've seen this happen multiple times. I've been to multiple different trials, right? I'm from Philly. So if someone supposedly commits a crime, right? Let's just say they rob someone's house, right? And let's just say that the person in the house says, yes, this person came into my house. I had no cameras, but they came into my house. They were wearing a black shirt. They were wearing some Converses. And then they got into a Pontiac and then pulled off at 503, right? Mm-hmm. And then the person across the street, there's 5 people across the street, they're still out barbecuing, right? And all 5 of those individuals say, yeah, we saw this guy come out the house with a TV in his hand, and he had on some Converses, et cetera, et cetera. And then he got into a Pontiac and drove off, right? Now, it's a possibility that those people are lying, right? It's a possibility that those people are in on it, right? They're just saying that because they know the lady, right? But then you would have to actually prove that. So the fact that there's a possibility doesn't eliminate that it also could be true.
This is
so
how
because
legal,
what they're
Aaron,
saying could be true. So you
Aaron,
can't
this
just
is
say,
how our
well,
legal
they
system
could be
works.
lying. That's not how that works.
Here's how our legal system works. Because it's just a claim, we split the difference. We don't automatically say he's guilty. We say, oh, this is the guy, him. That's enough to, we got the claim. It's not evidence. It's enough to arrest him because now he's got to go through the legal process. He's got to be charged. He's going to get a court date. Then he gets to defend himself. And you've got to present evidence. Now, the testimonies of these people, they're going to be in court, but then people have to decide,
is it evidence?
How believable.
Would you consider that evidence if it's true, right? So if these people are not lying, right? Because we eliminated lying, so these people have no reason to lie. Some way.
How do we eliminate lying?
We eliminate lying because we actually recognize that these individuals are all upstanding citizens. They are all former police officers or whatever, right? We verify that these individuals have no record of lying, right? They've been on the stand multiple times. They've done jury duty. There's no evidence that these individuals would lie, right? They pay their taxes, all these different things. So now we've eliminated lying, right? And all 5 of these individuals see the same thing. How is that not evidence that this individual came into the house and robbed it?
Because there's so many other possibilities that you haven't even considered.
What are they? Can you tell me one?
They could have poor eyesight. They could be going off of the no, Aaron, listen, this happens in court cases all the time. One person could have poor eyesight and say, this was the guy right here. And then the others may not even remember what the person looks like. And the first person that says that's him could cause the others to say, yeah, I think that is him. And before you know it, they bolster the other people's story when they didn't even really get a good look at the guy. They could have not gotten a good look at the guy. There's all kind of reasons why they could still be wrong. Now, here's the thing. What you're doing when you get people to come in and corroborate the story and test their character and show, oh, this person always pays their bill. This person left the job because they were doing unethical things. And you think you said, oh, that kind of person would have no reason to lie. It's that stuff becomes the actual evidence to back up the claim that I saw this person. I saw this person is still not the evidence. That's the claim. The evidence is all the other things that you're doing to see if these people are trustworthy, which is why you have jurors who say, I voted guilty because I found the witness trustworthy, or I didn't find her to be a truthful person. The character stuff, that was the evidence is what you found.
What about video? What about video? What if it's a video? Would that be evidence?
Yes, because now you get to kind of be there because you're not trusting the testimony of somebody else.
What's the difference between someone like what's the difference between 100 people seeing one thing and then 3 people in the courtroom seeing the same thing? Like, what's the difference if they're all seeing it? So what's the difference?
You don't know that they're seeing it. You don't know that they're seeing it. They know. You don't know.
If they know, why can't they give you an account and that actually be a true account? And that true account not be evidence. It could be
a true account, but you don't know that it's true. You've got no reason to trust somebody else's testimony until you get better reason to trust their testimony. You need evidence to trust their testimony.
Yeah, but Brady, can I ask you a question, bro? Brady, couldn't it be true that a video can be AI generated? It could be fake. That's a possibility.
Once you add that in, then that complicates even the video. No, indeed.
Exactly. Oh my God, Lord have mercy. We can't trust the video. Lord.
So hold on. Wait.
Oh my God.
So hold on. Are you saying you brought up deep fake videos and then now you're saying, but we should probably still trust the video even though we know they're deep fakes?
Under my view, I'm talking
about. No, I'm saying
under my view, no. Under my view, if we have eyewitness testimony corroborating with the original claim, right? I think that constitutes as evidence. Under your view, it's not evidence because they could be mistaken. That's your view, not mine.
They could be mistaken. They could be otherwise motivated. You have to find out whether or not these are trustworthy people. I know, but that becomes your evidence.
But the point is that a video, the problem with a video is that you have to establish that it's authentic. You have to establish that it wasn't tampered with, because all of these things.
Same thing you do with the witnesses. Same thing you do with the eyewitnesses.
Okay, but the point is that this stuff happens in court. Like they'll try to, we're going to look at the metadata. Looks like, and then they'll do this in a courtroom, and then they'll be like, well,
Mhm.
there's no evidence that this video was tampered with. So likewise, you would have to, because that video constitutes as evidence, they're going to try to remove it as evidence by talking to how it's not
But look,
reliable. It's
I
just,
think
it's
you're
the same
missing
thing.
you're missing a
It's the
key.
same thing with eyewitness
Aaron, you're
testimony. They
missing
do
a
the
key
same
point.
thing. You're unreliable because you lied on the stand before. Therefore, your testimony is not going to be considered by the jury. It's the same
But
thing.
you cannot see what the eyewitness saw. You don't know that the eyewitness saw anything.
It doesn't
That's
matter. I
different
have
than a
other ways to
video that you
verify it,
figure.
though. I know I have other ways to verify what they're saying is true.
So here's the deal. I was trying to get you to acknowledge something. And for those who are putting up red flags and wondering why this convo is going on so long, I'm not taking any other calls. And I think there's something in here that's worth getting at. So that's why I'm sticking with this call. But the point I was trying to make earlier is eyewitnesses is different than eyewitness testimony. An eyewitness is somebody who's got a personal experience with something. And if they actually experienced it, there's no doubting they saw that. Now they could question whether or not it was a hallucination, but that's an experience they had. The second the eyewitness turns to eyewitness testimony, now you're asking other people to act as if they are just as sure as the actual eyewitness is. And you can hardly get there. That's why the standard in court is beyond a reasonable doubt, because you can always find reasons to doubt something. You're looking at what I'm saying as if I'm radically skeptical. I'm not always trying to find a reason to doubt something. I'm looking at what's reasonably doubtful. And if you can't prove this beyond a reasonable doubt, there's no way that testimony by itself is going to get you there. You need something to bolster the testimony, which is why James Pesh in the chat is wondering why I'm letting you get away with calling the people in the Bible eyewitnesses. The reason why I'm doing that is because even in principle, the reason why James is asking me why am I letting you get away with that, Aaron, is because you don't even have eyewitnesses in the Bible. You've got claims of eyewitnesses. You don't even have eyewitnesses in the Bible. But we can get there in a second if we got time. But what I'm saying is, even if I gave you the eyewitness testimony, it's still just testimony. And you can't do the thing that you just said we'd like to do in court. Or I said it really. If you get an eyewitness testimony in court, you're going to find out about the person's character, their history, to make their claim more believable. You can't even do that with the people in the Bible. So even if the Bible was eyewitness testimony, you've got no way to know whether the people who say they saw a resurrected Jesus were lying, mistaken, or otherwise motivated. How do you do that with your eyewitnesses, even if I granted them?
You're saying, how do I rule out the fact that they're not lying?
How do you rule out that they weren't lying, mistaken, or otherwise motivated? Or fictional, just added for the sake of bolstering the story. How do you rule those out when they're all possibilities?
So you're asking me, how do I rule out the reasonable possibilities, right? Because you would agree. Okay, so so you're asking me if I have an eyewitness testimony, right? How I would rule them out?
Eyewitness testimony in the Bible. I'm granting you that there's eyewitness. I don't think that there are. We can talk about that in a minute. But if I granted you the eyewitness testimony in the Bible, how would you rule out that those testimonies are not lying, mistaken, otherwise motivated, or even fictionally added in to bolster the story? How would you rule out those four things?
Well, first thing I would say is, in the case of the resurrection, since now we finally got back to the resurrection, I wouldn't say that the eyewitness testimony is the only thing that that we have. That's the first thing. Second, I can't, just like you can't, and nobody can't, sort of deductively rule out whether or not someone is lying or has some sort of ulterior motive, right? So I would just say that historically, whenever you're looking at anything from history, it doesn't work by you essentially ruling out every logical alternative. I compare what the competing explanations of the story are, and then I ask which one best explains the data that we actually have. And I think in the case of the resurrection, I think that when we look at all of the data, that we are left with the conclusion that
Aaron,
something significant happened. It wasn't just people lying, because the data doesn't support people
we
lying.
spent all that time talking about eyewitness testimony only for you to dodge the question and go to these other reasons why you trust it and not the eyewitnesses. That was a huge letdown.
We do trust the eyewitness testimony. That's a
huge
huge
part of the evidence. Stop. I asked you, how would you rule out these 4 things for the eyewitness testimony in the Bible? And then rather than answer that, you said, well, I wouldn't just use eyewitness testimony.
That's not what I said.
You went to all this other stuff.
I said you can't. No, you're messing with the point. I said you wouldn't do that. No one that does history rules out the fact that someone is lying. So that your question presupposes that this is what historians do. Nobody does this. No one looks at him like, we need to try to rule out that Josephus could possibly be lying or Tacitus could possibly be lying about this. No, nobody does this. Just like a judge is not going to say that eyewitness testimony is not evidence.
All the time, Aaron. Historians do this. Yes,
okay,
they do. You look at the claims of Alexander the Great. You look at any of the historians are always looking at it, trying to figure out what's possible, what's
Brady,
plausible,
you're
and what's
me
probable.
If we're taking eyewitness testimony by itself, I cannot deductively rule out that they were mistaken or they had some sort of ulterior motive, or sort of they were a part of some sort of conspiracy. Like, I can't rule any of that out. But that's not the same thing as saying that eyewitness testimony has no evidential value. And that's what you were saying. You were saying that that it's not evidence. That's what you were saying.
So hold on. What you still have not answered is,
Brady, I just answered the question. Come on, brother.
What is the evidentiary value of testimony that you can't rule out as being something other than true? What is the evidentiary value of that kind of testimony?
What's the same value that it would have in the case that if you have a claim, someone makes a claim to have saw something, right? And
something miraculous.
And then you have corroborating evidence that was so. I'll give you an example, right? Because you want to use the miracle thing. We'll do miracles, right?
Mm-hmm.
I saw Mary, right? I say that I had an impression of Mary, right? I saw her, right? Now, if I just say, hey, I saw Mary and nobody else saw her, I just saw it, then the probability of me being mistaken or hallucinating is very, very high because it's just me, right? Now, what if someone else who I don't know says they saw Mary, and what if someone from a different country travels and they say, oh, I saw Mary? And then what if you just have thousands of people who all say that they saw Mary? Then that means
that's evidence of?
That means that the possibility of everyone hallucinating actually decreases, correct?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Not at all.
Oh my gosh.
Not at all.
Okay.
Eyewitness testimony.
Brady, I don't think
only evidence that somebody's making a claim.
That's just unreasonable. I think you're saying something unreasonable now.
So you think that miracle claims are more likely if more people?
That's not what I claim. That's not what I claim. So you're not even listening.
That's not what I said. Of what you just said.
That's not what I said.
The application of what you just said,
Brady. That's not what I said. What I said.
If more people see something, it's more than likely truer than false. That's what you just.
Brady,
tell me what
that's
you said.
That's not what I said, Brady. Again, I said, is it less likely or more likely that?
That's what I just said. You said,
Brady, you didn't let me finish. I said, is it less likely or more likely that I am hallucinating? That's what I said. So it is less likely or more likely that I am hallucinating if I just see it versus if 100 or 1,000 people see the same thing that I said that I saw? What's the does the probability
Oh, I'm sorry, I
decrease or
missed.
increase?
I missed it.
Does the probability
If the only
decrease or
explanation,
increase?
right? If the only explanation that we're trying to rule out is you hallucinating, then yes, it's much less likely if
Okay,
100 other people saw it.
So what that means then, Brady, is that because when we're talking about evidence, we're talking about likelihood, right? We're talking about probability. So if it's moving in one direction based on these individuals who are saying that they just saw it, then that constitutes as evidence. How does it not?
No, hold on. I don't think you understand what you just said. The only evidence that you just won just now was that you're probably
evidence that I'm not hallucinating. No, evidence that I'm not
that the thing you saw is true. It's not evidence of the thing you saw is true.
That's not the point. We're talking about eyewitness testimony being evidence, and you just granted me.
No, sir.
You don't even realize
no.
you just granted me. You just said just said that it would move it from being likely that you're hallucinating to less likely that you are not hallucinating. So that means that it's evidence in that case, right?
No, it's not.
So what?
Oh my gosh.
So how is it moving to less likely?
Other people having other people saying that they saw what you say you saw just means we don't have any explanation of hallucinations happening in that type of way. So you're probably not hallucinating. So, but that's not evidence of the claim more likely being true.
You're changing my claim. Brady, you're changing my claim.
Possible explanation. That's all you've done.
You
ruled out a possible explanation. You didn't give Brady, evidence for the claim.
Brady, you're moving my claim away, actually. So you're trying to make a claim that I'm actually not making because you realize that what you are saying by your own argument, it constitutes as evidence. So, for example, if I say I saw Mary,
this is painful,
right? If I say I saw Mary, right, you could say that, well, you're possibly hallucinating. But then the more people that say that they also saw Mary at the same time I saw Mary, you would have to move away from that it was an hallucination, that it's something else, and then you have to explain it a different way because you have other evidence, other data. So what you're doing is you're looking at all of the data and you're interpreting through what's likely versus what's less likely. That's what you're doing with data. So if I have data and I say I saw this, that's the data, right? You have more data that other people also saw the same thing. So now you have to rule out that this is not the case, that he couldn't be hallucinating because other people saw it. So I need to find another way of interpreting this data. Do you understand what you're doing? You're doing that based on probability.
What did I get evidence of?
Brady, every claim needs evidence. You agree, right? So you can't rule something out without evidence, right?
All right. They've been saying this is going
Brady,
to circles,
can you rule something out?
Can
you just rule something out without evidence? Like, can you just say, well, I don't have any evidence
Aaron,
that he's not hallucinating.
I gotta rule out this call.
Cool.
I gotta rule out this call.
That's cool, brother. I'll talk to you
no,
later.
but for as much as it was good, I appreciate it. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, man.
All right. You saw it. I did see some super chats coming through. Y'all probably had questions for Aaron, but I don't think it was going to go much further than it went. Let me see what y'all had to say. Judah Soul, I think that's my nephew. What up, Jay? Said, is God confused or just confusing? I wouldn't think a God would be confused, but I think if there was a God and it allowed us to see it as this confusing or become this confused, this God's got a lot to answer for. But I don't really think there's a God. I don't think we need to be shaking our fist at the heavens. I think rather than looking at the supernatural, nature is probably just more super than we've been giving it credit for being. And we need to investigate nature rather than trying to mess with the supernatural. So, but that's where I'm at with things. Appreciate the super chat. And then we got Best Beatboxer. Thank you for the super chat. Says, Aaron doesn't like answering questions. Typical Christian. What a coward. I was really trying to get back to the cultish thinking. That's where I was moving with my questions. Like cults like it when people take word of mouth as opposed to actually seeing a thing. That's one of the major things that's fueling MAGA is the authoritarian leader of the movement can just say the only way they can beat me is if they cheat. And then all the followers, without having any evidence, take the word of mouth as evidence. That's what cults do. They take word of mouth as evidence. And if you're a Christian watching this and you believe in the resurrection, you realize that testimony is not evidence, especially if you can't get corroborating data to bolster the trustworthiness of the person who's testifying. If I can't put James and Peter or Paul on the stand to figure out how trustworthy these people are, their word means nothing. I don't know if you're a liar. I don't know if you're a work of fiction. I don't know if you're otherwise motivated or if you were just mistaken. Why would I take your word as evidence of anything if I can't get anything to support who you are as a person? You take testimony as evidence, you're in a cult, and that is Christianity. Tanner B. Gatton, what's happening? Tanner says, I hope to become as patient as you are while engaging in these conversations. I'm sitting at home ready to jump through YouTube at some of the things people say. LOL, keep shining the light, my brother. Appreciate you. Thanks for the super chat. One of the reasons why I'm so patient is, when the Bible says true things, you got to give credit where credit is due. It says love hopes all things. I love these people that call in, and I really do hope the best. I hope that they hear something that makes them say, was I being completely rational when I said that? And maybe they'll come around to it, or maybe one of their friends is watching and their friends will say, yo, man, on that part, you probably need to go back. I'm always hoping that somebody can grow a little bit, and that's part of what my patience is. But then another part of the patience is I think there are Christians who are watching, and sometimes they're jumping up and down, screaming like, yeah, Aaron just got Brady with that. And then sometimes they're sitting back saying, ooh, do I look like that? Do I sound like that? Like Dalton said, when he saw the Christians getting fooled by the rapture, he believed he was an Israelite at the time. And it put up a mirror for him, and it made him say, do I look like that? So sometimes I let the calls go because I'm hoping the best for the person and the conversation. And sometimes I let the calls go because I know people are watching, and it's doing more for them than the Christian sometimes wants to be happening. E Money Snipes, thanks for the super chat, yo. Says, missed a few minutes, so forgive me if said. Extraordinary claims like rising from the dead takes extraordinary evidence. Now, here's the thing. That's something that gets said in the skeptic community a lot, and I love that. I was actually working towards that point and working towards challenging who these people are in the Bible. Are they really eyewitnesses, or are they just claims of eyewitnesses and people getting the names of eyewitnesses? I couldn't even get there, but I was trying to get there and get to, like you said, extraordinary claims takes extraordinary evidence. I floated to work today and back. There were 500 unknown witnesses. Believe me. Of course not, Aaron. Yeah, like you could make the claim, but if you say you floated to work, now you could mean that figuratively and just say you had a happy spirit and you were float. But if you mean it literally, that's an extraordinary claim. I'm going to need some extraordinary evidence. Your firsthand testimony of that is not evidence. It's a claim that needs to be vetted. So thank you for that comment. Thor versus Darwin. Am I reading that name right? That's a crazy name if that's right. Thor versus Darwin. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate that. Says, I followed for a little bit, but never seen live. I hope everyone is having a great day. Appreciate you. Much love. Having a great day over here. I saw somebody in the chat said they beat me to popping the edible. Yeah, days like these, Mondays and Tuesdays, have become my edible days. I try to take a couple of days off just to make sure that I can be me and enjoy life without it. But yeah. All right. Looks like the last super chat, Best Beatboxer, thanks for the $5 super chat, says, even if Jesus resurrected, he didn't. It doesn't matter. He did not fulfill any prophecies in the Hebrew Bible or in the Old Testament. Yeah, a lot of problems with this Jesus story. I wasn't sure if today's prompt was going to get a lot of callers, but it actually did. So this Thursday, I got a Life After Faith, a Great Life After Faith coming up. And then this Saturday, me and the Blavengers, the Black Avengers, we will be responding to the 1v20 of the New Ager spiritualists versus the 20 Christians. So that's going to be a great time this Saturday at 8 p.m. Hey, love you guys. Thanks for rocking with Ichabod. I had a bunch of dope videos that I cut up for today that I never got a chance to play, but it's all good. If your name pops up on the screen, guess where else your name is? Mi Corazon. Love you guys. Thanks so much. I'll catch you next time. Peace.